Chapter 426. Chi Meiyun said, "What a sour smell." Miao Ling giggled. "I smell it too," Yin Yao laughed. "You're trying to ruin my show again. I'll beat you up." Chi Meiyun said, "Go ahead, try hitting me." She wasn't afraid of Yin Yao. Xi and Jiaolun frowned. "All right, stop messing around." Among the juniors, his prestige was even higher than Yuko's, so when he spoke, Chi Meiyun and Yin Yao didn't dare to continue messing around. Tung Yuan said, "A Feng, is Fatty at home? I went to look for him once, but there's no one at home." Lei Xingfeng said, "Fatty is at home. Get someone to invite him over." Tung Yuan shook his head. "Forget it for today. I'll go look for him next time." Xi and Jiaolun clapped his hands. "All right, Feng's here. If you have anything to say it to him." Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, "Hey, second senior brother, are you looking for me?" Xi and Jiaolun laughed. "Of course, I sent someone to guard Master's door. When I saw you come out, I came to call you. Of course, it's not a coincidence." Lei Xingfeng said, all right, what's the matter?" Xi and Jiaolun's face lit up. He said, "After we came here, we haven't really gone out to take a look. Whether it's Junior, Uncle, or Master, they don't have time to take us. The Grandmaster isn't here either. You know, Master told us not to go out as much. It's not peaceful outside." Lei Xingfeng understood what he meant. He said, "I understand what you mean. You want me to go out with everyone." Chi Meiyun said, "Can you do it? A phone?" Lei Xingfeng immediately smiled and said, "Of course, I can also ask Uncle Gao Yi to come with us." The implication was that Gao Yi would be everyone's bodyguard. Everyone was overjoyed. They had been bored to death in this place. In the Dawn Continent, they were also not allowed to go out. They were all in the camp, either cultivating or doing nothing. They had long been unable to bear it. Unexpectedly, after arriving in the outer realm and setting up camp, they were still cooped up at home. Moreover, the elders and their families did not have the time to take them out. Therefore, they had no choice but to set their sights on Lei Xingfeng. No matter what, Lei Xingfeng would not refuse. He knew that the future would be the time for cultivators to develop greatly. These senior brothers and sisters were all in a powerful alliance. Although they were still weak now, no one would look down on the direct descendants of secret sections. Their success rate was extremely high. One day, they would reach the level of a true lord or a heaven lord. They might even reach the level of a Tao lord. Miao Ling giggled and said, "A Feng is still the best, In fact, they had already asked Feng Qinzong before this. However, Feng Qinzong did not agree. Firstly, he was not strong enough, especially since he had just become a true lord not long ago. He was not confident at all. He was also afraid of accidents if he brought along his former junior brothers and sisters. Secondly, he was not familiar with the outer realm and did not know where to go. Therefore, Feng Qinzong rejected them very straightforwardly. He was not like Lei Xingfeng. If he could not go, he would explain it clearly. However, he did not explain, which made his former junior brothers and sisters extremely depressed. Therefore, someone suggested that they might as well ask Lei Xingfeng. No matter what, Lei Xingfeng was more familiar with this place than them. Moreover, he had experts by his side who could protect everyone. Originally, they thought that Lei Xingfeng would refuse. They did not expect Lei Xingfeng to agree and even say that he would invite Gao Yi. Everyone was immediately excited. Yin Yao said, "You still say that a Feng is a good person." This time, Chi Meiyun did not bicker with her. She said, "I knew that a Feng would agree." Everyone immediately started praising him. So, Lei Xingfeng was their junior brother. Everyone thought of him for everything. In the past, when they went to the outer realm through the secret door, they would often take the initiative to invite Lei Xingfeng. This was actually an opportunity, especially back then, when Lei Xingfeng did not know anything. He helped Lei Xingfeng a lot. This time, Lei Xingfeng's agreement made everyone feel that he was a good person. He was not an ungrateful person. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let senior brother Yuko come too. Oh, and senior brother Bai as well." Everyone had an awkward expression on their faces. Lei Xingfeng asked, "What's wrong?" Xi and Jiaolun said, "Senior brother has already gone out. He left with junior brother by Tianming." Lei Xingfeng was instantly stunned. He asked, "What do you mean?" Chi Meiyun explained, by Tianming's great uncle, is a heaven monarch realm expert from another secret door. This time, he specially brought him out for an adventure. Lei Xingfeng said, it's an adventure organized by another secret door, so they invited senior brother by Tianming. But why did senior brother Yuko also go? Xian Jiaoluan said, senior brother is thick-skinned. So he followed. Junior brother, Bai, could not reject him. After all, he is the senior brother. Besides, one more person is not a big deal. His tone obviously had a trace of displeasure. Lei Xingfeng was very clear that this could not be considered Yuko's fault. When Bai Tianming went, no one had any objections. When Yuko went, no one would have any objections. However, no matter what, there would be a knot in their hearts. It was certain that they were unhappy. It was just that they did not know that it was just a slight imbalance in their hearts. Lei Xingfeng stood up and said, all right, everyone get ready. When you are ready, gather at my place. Second senior brother, please inform master that we are going out. Xian Jiaoluan happily agreed. He said, all right, everyone get ready. Who will go with me to inform master? Qi Meiyun said, senior brother, let me go with you. Lei Xingfeng nodded. He turned and walked out. He said, everyone can bring 1 or 2 guards, but don't bring too many people. Otherwise, it will be too cumbersome. Everyone agreed and immediately dispersed. Lei Xingfeng brought Jing Zia home. Soon, Lei Xingfeng returned home. Gao Yi and the others were still waiting. Seeing Lei Xingfeng come back, Gao Yi said, a phone, come and eat. Haha, this is really delicious. The large table of food was already in a mess. Basically, it was all eaten. Lei Xingfeng said, it's all finished. What do you want me to eat? Jean Depang immediately said, yes, there is still a lot. It's enough for you to eat. He immediately led his subordinates to clean up the table and put all kinds of food on it. For him, cultivation might not be the best, but when it came to cooking, he would definitely strive for perfection. Lei Xingfeng carried a large bowl of rice with a few spoonfuls of red braised pork and some vegetables. He was too lazy to ask Jean Depang to cook up too many things. He was already very satisfied with just eating like this. Jean Depang had no choice. He originally wanted to cook up a few good dishes for Lei Xingfeng, but Lei Xingfeng asked for something so simple. He had no choice but to do as he was told and serve a large bowl of rice. In fact, it was just a bowl of rice. Jing Zia didn't eat food. She only ate one kind of thing, which was energy crystals. Xian Feng was indeed hungry. Due to the rapid growth of his cultivation, not eating for a long time didn't affect him much, so he would often forget to eat. Suddenly, he picked up a bowl of fragrant rice and a bowl of oily red braised meat, causing his appetite to soar. Lei Xingfeng was very satisfied with the meal. His appetite was much smaller than before, so a bowl of rice was enough. Putting down the bowl, Lei Xingfeng said, we're going out for an adventure tomorrow. Who's going? Gao Yi said, going out for an adventure at this time? Lei Xingfeng smiled. My senior brothers and sisters want to go out, but it's too dangerous outside. They wanted to go with them. Uncle Gao, let's go together. Gao Yi said, okay, let's go together. I know a place with a lot of good things. You can go look for them. With Gao Yi leading the way, Lei Xingfeng immediately felt relieved. Jean Dias said, I'm not going. I have a lot of things to deal with at home. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love weren't going either. They had a lot of things to do in the mirror world. Jean Depang came up and said with a smile, a phone, take me there. Lei Xingfeng didn't refuse. Although he was relatively weak, Lei Xingfeng was confident that he could protect him. As long as he had a gold-grade puppet beast to protect him, it would be enough for Lei Xingfeng to come to his rescue. Lei Xingfeng nodded. Okay, then Depang will accompany him. Ishao, are you going? Ishao also shook his head. No, I have more things to do. After bringing everyone back to the mirror world, Lei Xingfeng went back to his room to rest. The next morning, Lei Xingfeng, Gao Yi, Jing Zia, and Jean Depang appeared at their home outside the camp. Soon, Xian Jiaoluan and Qi Meiyun came in with a 9th ring true bodyguard. Then, Miao Ling came in with Sister Hong. Tung Yuan and Yin Yao also came in with their own guards. After everyone was gathered, Lei Xingfeng said, the place we're going to is designated by Uncle Gao. We'll go through Uncle Gao's secret door. This will save us a lot of trouble. Uncle Gao, tell us about the place we're going to and some things we need to pay attention to. Gao Yi smiled and stood up. He clapped his hands and said, "Okay, everyone pay attention." He paused for a moment before continuing. The place we're going to this time is a relatively peaceful place on this continent full of forbidden areas and big forbidden areas. There are no restrictions or disturbances here, and there aren't too many ferocious beasts such as star beasts. This is a place rich in resources. Generally, cultivators who have stayed here for a long time would know about this place. Tuki Slope. Gao Yi said, "The most dangerous thing in Tung Chi Slope isn't the beasts. The most dangerous thing in Tung Chi Slope is the people. This is a place where resources are concentrated. Many cultivators know about this place." The cultivators he was referring to were obviously experts above monarch level. Xi and Jiaoluan raised his hand and said, "Senior Gao, what do we need to prepare?" Gao Yi said, "You don't need to prepare anything. Just come with me. When you get there, you can find useful things on your own. Remember, if you see anyone, return to the group immediately. A phone, and I will take care of any problems. Do you understand?" Xi and Jiaoluan nodded. Understood. Everyone was excited. They could finally go out. They were almost bored to death. It was too uncomfortable to stay in this small camp every day. Chapter 427. Lei Xingfeng said, "Everyone come over. Each of you will have a gold-level puppet beast by your side. If there is any danger, let it block it. Don't try to be brave here." Xi and Jiaoluan, Qi Meiyun, Yin Yao, Tung Yuan, Miao Ling, and Jin Depeng all brought a gold-level puppet beast. There were a total of 6 gold-level puppets, which were 6 Hercules. With these things, everyone's safety was guaranteed. Even Gao Yi was shocked. He couldn't understand how Lei Xingfeng managed to get so many gold-level puppets. Xi and Jiaoluan and the rest were overjoyed. Lei Xingfeng always had some surprises for people. Gao Yi opened the door without hesitation. Everyone immediately moved and walked in one by one. Soon, only Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi were left. The two looked at each other. Lei Xingfeng was the first to walk in, followed by Gao Yi. The moment Gao Yi entered, the door disappeared. Tai Chi Slope didn't have any slopes. Instead, it was a continuous chain of small hills, countless primeval forests, and small streams. One could often see hundreds of acres of wild grass. The grass was half a person's height. When a person walked on the grass, only their shoulders and head could be seen. This was an extremely beautiful scenery. Lei Xingfeng admired it very much, but the others didn't care. This world might lack other things, but it didn't lack scenery. All kinds of beautiful scenery could be seen everywhere. They were all natural masterpieces. Gao Yi was the last to walk out of the door. Xi and Jiaoluan and the rest had already flown to the treetops and began to search the surroundings. Miao Ling was still standing on the ground, but her bodyguard, Hong Jie, had already flown to the treetops to look around. Miao Ling said, "There doesn't seem to be anything special here." This kind of geographical environment was very common. It could be found everywhere. However, Xen Feng knew that this place wasn't ordinary with just a glance, because in his eyes there were many spots of light, and among them there was an intense light shooting out. He knew that there were definitely treasures here, no matter if it was plants or minerals. As long as there was an intense light, then it was a treasure. This was something he had tested countless times, and never once had he been disappointed. Lei Xingfeng was certain that this was indeed a treasure trove. There were large amounts of resources and plant treasures. He said, "All right, bring your guards and gold-level puppets, and spread out to search. There are indeed many good things here. It depends on whether you have the ability to find them." Gao Yi reminded him, "Don't run too far, or we won't be able to save you in time." There were all kinds of animals and wild beasts in the forest, but they were not a big threat to Xi and Jiaoluan and the others. As long as they were not top-level beasts, they would not be a big threat. Of course, if they were unlucky and encountered an adult star beast and could not escape, they would all be wiped out. Lei Xingfeng said, "It's rare for us to come out. Let's look around too." Gao Yi said, "I'll stand guard here. You all go search." With Galya's protection, Lei Xingfeng was of course at ease. He led Jing Zia into the forest. Lei Xingfeng wanted to collect all kinds of plant treasures. He had a vague idea that since plants were also living things, they contained many elements that were suitable for practitioners. After reaching a high level of cultivation, the use of rare plants will become more and more important. It could be said that the cultivators of the secret sects spent their entire lives searching for all kinds of materials. It couldn't be helped. Their cultivation relied on the accumulation of resources. Just relying on hard work was far from enough. This was also one of the most important reasons why the secret sects had to migrate. When a place's resources were exhausted, if they didn't migrate, then the secret sects would only face one path: complete decline. Therefore, every practitioner had their own set of skills when it came to collecting and excavating. When Xiangeluan and the others spread out to search, they began to find all kinds of good things. Shouts and screams rose one after another. When they found a rare plant, no one could remain calm. Not only could they exchange it for rings and complete the sex mission, they could also exchange it for materials for their own advancement. Lei Xingfeng led Jing Zia for a stroll in the forest. He did not search aimlessly like the others. Instead, he went straight to his target. This was the skill of his strange eyes. Jing Zia followed Lei Xingfeng. Of course, she could see the strangeness of Lei Xingfeng's eyes. His eyes were completely silver, and sometimes they even emitted traces of electricity. It was very strange. Fortunately, she was a puppet. If Lei Xingfeng did not say anything, she would not ask. Of course, she would not tell anyone. Even if she had intelligence, she was still a puppet. She did not have the heart of a human being. Lei Xingfeng dug up rare herbs and plants and stored them directly in the mirror world. There were people there who took care of them and quickly planted them in the cultivation garden. He did not just collect materials. He began to cultivate them as he collected them. When the plants grew to their best state, he would harvest them. Jing Zia said, "You like herbs? You know how to make medicine?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know how to make medicine. I'm not a wood cultivator. However, my little sister is a wood cultivator. She is very talented. I am collecting these for her." Jing Zia said, "Medicine is very difficult to learn. Even in our era, medicine was very rare. A bottle of high-level medicine is priceless." Xian Feng nodded. "It's the same for our hidden sect. Medicines are hard to come by and are always in short supply. Many medicines require us to gather precious herbs to exchange for them, or else we can't even buy them." Jing Zia said indifferently, "It is very normal. Experts who can make medicine, other than learning and cultivating at the beginning, will trade with other people's herbs in the later stages. Most of them have their own huge cultivation garden." Lei Xingfeng suddenly said, "There is something good in front." As he spoke, he ran quickly. The light in front of him was so dazzling. In his eyes, it was definitely an extremely rare treasure. He could not be careless. If it was dug out by others, he would cry, but have no tears. There was a circle of black soil. Apart from a red plant, there were no other plants. The area was not large, and the diameter of the black soil was about 2 meters. It was irregular, and the red plant was very strange. It was like a red crab lying on the ground. It was exactly the same as a sea crab. Its 8 claws were deeply embedded in the ground, and its 2 pincers were also embedded in the ground, supporting its basin-sized body. The red crab shell was covered with purple-red fluff. This plant was so strange that Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He did not know this plant. Red crab spiritual grass. Jing Zia recognized it. She said, "This is red crab spiritual grass. It is highly poisonous." The word highly poisonous made Lei Xingfeng withdraw his hand immediately. He said, "Highly poisonous?" Jing Zia pulled Lei Xingfeng back a step and said, "You can't touch it. You can transplant it completely together with the soil. This soil is formed by the poison released by the red crab spiritual grass. No plant can survive in it. It is also the key to its production." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What is the use of the red crab spiritual grass?" Jing Zia was a little surprised. "How can you find it if you don't know?" She said, I don't know the specific use. I just know that this thing is very precious. If it is given to a cultivator who specializes in making medicine, it will be very valuable. Lei Xingfeng stretched out his hand and grabbed something. A knife flashing with thunder and lightning appeared. Jing Zia said, "What are you doing?" Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "Don't worry. I'm not so stupid as to cut the red crab spiritual grass. I will clean up the surrounding soil." Since he couldn't touch it, he used a safe method to directly clean up the soil around the black soil, leaving only the black soil and the red crab spiritual grass. Then he moved them into the cultivation garden in the mirror realm. Lei Xingfeng entered the mirror realm with a large mass of black soil and the red crab spiritual grass. He appeared directly in the cultivation garden, then quickly dug a big hole and put the red crab spiritual grass in it. After everything was done, Lei Xingfeng thought that something was wrong. If someone from the cultivation garden came here and touched the red crab spiritual grass, they would probably die. Even he didn't dare to touch it, let alone ordinary cultivators. After thinking for a while, Xian Feng decided to use a small restriction, the one he got from the training technique on the wall. That restriction was very simple. Xian Feng had used it to restrict lightning liquid plasma before. This time, using it to restrict this small piece of land shouldn't be much of a problem. This kind of small restriction had a few forms. Using it to restrict lightning liquid plasma was the most exhausting, but there were other methods that could be used to protect small restrictions that only required the use of a few simple materials. Soon, a small restriction was set up, and a transparent light shield quickly disappeared. When Lei Xingfeng reached out to touch it, the light shield immediately appeared, and a trace of electric arcs shot out. They wouldn't hurt people, but they were enough to repel people. Lei Xingfeng nodded with satisfaction. It had only been 10 minutes since he left the mirror realm, so no one would notice that Lei Xingfeng had disappeared. Jing Zia said, "You have to remind the people in the cultivation garden that the red crab spiritual grass is not something that ordinary people can touch. If they're not careful, they will die." Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "It's a restriction. Hee. A few small restrictions in the cultivation method are very useful. In our cultivation system, there is no concept of restriction." Jing Zia said, "There will be no problem with the restriction. If the red crab spiritual grass is given to a wood cultivator, it will be very useful." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yes, this red crab spiritual grass is for my little sister." From time to time, excited shouts could be heard from the distance. Because Lei Xingfeng's secret sect had a close relationship with his little sister's secret sect, precious medicinal materials and spiritual herbs could be exchanged for very good potions. Although they didn't know how to make potions, they knew a lot about various kinds of spiritual herbs and herbs. There were a lot of medicinal materials here, and the most important thing was that there were many varieties, which gave everyone a lot of surprises. There were a lot of rare plants in this dense forest, and of course, there were also many that Lei Xingfeng and the others didn't know. The others only collected the spiritual herbs that they knew, but Lei Xingfeng was different. His eyes were very special. He could transplant any plant that shone with light, unless it was not suitable for transplant. Then he would collect it and put it in a black box. Jing Zia followed Lei Xingfeng and watched him transplant medicinal materials and plants. Finally, she couldn't help but ask, "How do you know so many plants?" Because she couldn't recognize more than half of the plants that Lei Xingfeng transplanted. Chapter 428. Lei Xingfeng even transplanted some big trees and saplings into the mirror realm. After transplanting them, Lei Xingfeng would release gold-level puppets. According to Jing Zia, this was the job of strongman. Lei Xingfeng sighed with emotion as he searched. That's strange. No one should have been here before. Some precious spiritual herbs have a growth cycle of 100 years or even a few hundred years. If someone came here, they would have dug them all up. Why are there so many left? Jing Zia said, "This land is too big. In our time, cultivators often found all kinds of good things, but they gradually fell out of favor. It was only after they migrated that these precious medicinal herbs started to grow. This can be considered your welfare." Lei Xingfeng understood that the first person to try would always eat the meat, the second person could only gnaw on the bones, and the third person could still drink some soup. Those who came later would not get anything. After a large-scale migration, the first batch of people who dared to come out would definitely make a lot of money as long as they returned safely. The best things would go to these people. As time passed, the resources on this land would become fewer and fewer until the cultivators could no longer bear it and continue to migrate. Now, there was no need to worry about the lack of resources. The problem was how to find and excavate more resources. Only with enough resources and people could the secret sect flourish. Lei Xingfeng pushed forward. He flew to the treetops from time to time. No matter how high he went, he did not dare to fly, but it was enough for him to observe. Lei Xingfeng's main task now was to find a place for Elder Thunderstorm to cultivate and collect more plant resources for his little sister. He hoped that his family would become stronger. Only by becoming stronger could he ensure his own safety. He could not always protect his family by his side. In the end, he would have to venture into this dangerous world alone. Over the next few days, the group collected large amounts of rare herbs. Some were lucky and collected extremely precious spirit herbs. Lei Xingfeng obviously would not let them go, so he exchanged with these senior brothers and sisters. He used silver-grade spirit puppets to exchange. Among them, there was an extremely rare spirit herb that Tung Yuan had discovered and excavated. Lei Xingfeng used a gold-grade spirit puppet to exchange for it. Tung Yuan was extremely happy. To him, being a guard here was not enough. A ninth-ring true bodyguard would not be able to cope with the complicated environment here. With a gold-grade spirit puppet, his safety was greatly guaranteed. Just this exchange made the other senior brothers and sisters extremely jealous. They all discussed that once they found a top-grade spirit herb, they would exchange it with Lei Xingfeng. After the exchange ended, Lei Xingfeng planned to bring them back. Only then did he call Gao Yi back and prepare to open the secret sect. Gao Yi came to Lei Xingfeng's side and said, "I don't think we can leave for now." He raised his voice and said, "Come out, don't hide." Lei Xingfeng was shocked. He knew why they could not leave. Once Gao Yi opened the secret sect, they would be in trouble if that person attacked them when they entered the secret sect. A person slowly walked out of the dense forest with 4 people beside him. However, when Lei Xingfeng looked carefully, he immediately realized that something was wrong. This was because this person was followed by 4 spirit puppets. Their bodies were covered in a layer of crystal brilliance, and they were all male. Each of them was tall and mighty and held weapons in their hands. They were all single-edged axes. These axes were very special. They looked like long swords, but they were extremely thick and the tip of the axes extended outwards. However, Jing Zia was a little nervous. She said, "Battle puppets. They are battle puppets." Lei Xingfeng said softly, "What is a battle puppet? Is it stronger than you?" Jing Zia said, "It's not the same. I'm not a battle puppet. I have more of a management and coordination ability. Fighting is just a bonus. Their intelligence is limited. They're slightly stronger than strongmen, but their fighting power is much stronger. You have to be careful." Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, "Weakness? What is it?" Gao Yi had already gone forward. The others immediately shrank into a circle and formed a defensive formation. Lei Xingfeng did not dare to be careless and immediately went forward. He could not let these senior brothers and sisters go up to meet the enemy. They were not strong enough. Jing Zia followed him closely and whispered, "Their weakness is at the back of their heads. They are covered by the neck guard crystal. If we break the neck guard crystal, we can threaten their survival." Gao Yi also heard this. He turned around and smiled. "Very good." Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Gao, have you seen battle puppets before?" Gao Yi said, "No, this is the first time I've seen them. This person is strong enough to subdue 4 battle puppets." Lei Xingfeng said, "Be careful. This person should not be simple." Soon, the distance between the 2 parties was shortened to about 30 meters. Both parties stood still at the same time. That person realized something was wrong because the other party's aura was similar to his. They were both Heaven Monarch Realm experts. It was 2 against 1. However, he was obviously very confident in his battle puppets. Soon, he noticed Jing Zia behind Lei Xingfeng. He couldn't help but be stunned. He didn't expect that the other party would also have a battle puppet. That person said, "Sorry to disturb you. This humble one is Tang Geng." Gao Yi thought for a moment and did not have any impression of this name. He had never seen this person before. Gao Yi said, "Gao Yi." Lei Xingfeng was also a Heaven Monarch realm expert now. Therefore, he took a step forward and said, "Lei Xingfeng." Tang Geng nodded and said, "This is my territory. Don't you think you are going overboard by harvesting here without informing me?" Gao Yi's face revealed a trace of mockery. He said, "This is the first time I have heard that under this continent in the outer realm, there is actually someone who claims that this is his territory. Is your brain damaged?" Once he heard Tang Geng's tone, he naturally couldn't show any weakness. Showing weakness here was almost the same as courting death. Although Tang Geng was a Heaven Monarch, it was obvious that he hadn't reached the peak stage of the Heaven Monarch realm. Therefore, it was certain that he was relying on the 4 battle puppets. Gao Yi had barely reached the peak stage of the Heaven Monarch realm. Of course, he still needed some time to consolidate his cultivation. He was extremely powerful. With Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia, he wasn't afraid of the other party's provocation. Tang Geng was dressed very sloppily. He was not much different from when Lei Xingfeng first met Gao Yi. An unknown animal's fur covered his waist. Other than this fur covering his waist, he was completely naked. His body was covered with thick black fur. His face had a thick beard, and his eyes were extremely bright. His hair was so long that it reached his waist. He looked like a savage. A sour smell could be smelled from 30 meters away. He was holding a huge bone club in his hand, which was flickering with a faint yellow light. Xi and Jialuan and the others were very nervous. They were only 100 meters away from the two parties. They could already feel the hostile aura from both parties. Even if they were 100 meters away, the huge power could still affect them. Qi Meiyin said, "Why are there so many people? Are they all experts?" Yin Yao said, "This person is a big threat to me. I don't feel anything from the 4 people behind him." Tung Yuan had the gold-level puppet beside him, so he was a little calmer. He did not know that the gold-level puppet was nothing in front of the battle puppet. The battle puppet that even Jing Zia was afraid of was not something that they could resist. He said, "Are we too close?" Xi and Jiluan also felt that the threat was too great. He said, "Let's retreat slowly. Don't alarm them." The group of people slowly retreated. Even so, their defensive formation did not change. The quality of these disciples was very high. Even if they had not reached the level of monarch, they were all disciples with great potential. Due to their cultivation techniques, if they could get a good technique, it would not be a big problem for them to advance to monarch. The insurmountable gap of advancement seemed to have suddenly become smaller. This was the benefit of migration. Soon, the crowd retreated about 200 meters away. In addition to the original distance, they were now more than 300 meters away from the two parties. The huge pressure finally decreased to a level that they could bear. Xi and Jialuan said, "All right, let's just watch from here. Once the battle starts, we will definitely not interfere. As long as we don't distract a Feng and Senior Gao, we will win." Qi Meiyin said, "All right, everyone be quiet. While they're not paying attention, let's squat down." Everyone squatted down. This was a grassland. The weeds were about 140 centimeters tall. When they stood up, the weeds reached their waists. So when they squatted down, it was as if they suddenly disappeared. Miao Ling said softly, "Senior brother, second senior brother." Xi and Jialuan said, "What are you doing?" Miao Ling said, "We can slowly change to another place." Xi and Jialuan could not help but praise, "Good idea." He knew that the two parties would not be able to observe their surroundings. When they were facing each other, they would definitely be highly focused. He said softly, "Let's go to the forest at the side. Be careful, don't show your head. Bend down and walk." The group of people quickly hid in a forest. However, they didn't dare to go too far. Who knew what was in the forest? Without Gao Ye's protection, they didn't dare to wander around. The continents in the outer realms were already notorious. They didn't know when they would encounter danger. Whether it was Gao Yi, Lei Xingfeng, or Tang Geng, None of them noticed Exine Jiaolin's group. Both parties were focused on each other. Lei Xingfeng's body faintly appeared with Qinya's silver shadow. There were traces of electric arcs jumping on his right hand. Jing Zia said softly, "Give me a weapon." Lei Xingfeng could not find a suitable weapon in his hurry. He flipped his hand and took out the giant axe used by the Iron Man puppet. This thing was huge, but Jing Zia was obviously very satisfied. She held it in her hand. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. A delicate little girl. Although she was a puppet, she looked very much like a human. She was holding a giant axe that was even bigger than her body. No matter how he looked at it, it gave him a strange kind of beauty. That kind of valiance amidst the gentleness made all tough girls pale in comparison. Jing Zia's small hand could not even hold the handle of the axe, but she held it firmly with one hand. She did not feel any strain at all. She looked like she was about to fight. Tang Gung began to hesitate. In fact, he did not really care about the two heaven monarchs, especially when the other party had a bunch of disciples. They should have more scruples than him. After comparing their strengths, he did not have the confidence to kill everyone on the other side. Moreover, the other party only brought their disciples out, and there were already two heaven monarchs protecting them. This meant that the other party had a lot of hidden power. Chapter 429. Tang Gung said, "Leave some spiritual herbs. Also leave some food and salt. Yes, and clothes." Gao Yi sneered and said, "Why should I leave anything? Who do you think you are?" Tang Gung's expression suddenly changed. "Oh, then let's make a bet." "Humph, I believe you don't dare to fight with me unscrupulously. You have so many disciples. Be careful, or I'll kill them all." "Huh? Where did they go?" Only then did he realize that the group of people who were standing not far away had disappeared. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh and said, "Idiot, they left long ago." He had to trick the other party no matter what. Tang Gung was a little angry and said, "Even if they left, they couldn't have gone far. I'll find them." This time, even Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but get angry. He said coldly, "It seems like you've got us." In fact, when he heard that Exine Jiaolin and the others had disappeared, he secretly praised this group of senior brothers and sisters for being smart and removing a big burden for them. He couldn't help but feel a little eager to try. Although he had fought a few moves with Gao Yi, he didn't know his own strength. Without a real battle, he couldn't figure out his own strength. Tang Gung said lazily, "Okay, let's try it." As soon as these words came out, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng's nerves tensed up. A battle wasn't scary, but the upcoming battle made them nervous. Tang Gung suddenly retreated and shouted, "Go! I like to see how you deal with my baby." In an instant, the surrounding temperature plummeted. Gao Yi took the initiative to strike with his palm. An illusory palm quickly condensed and shot out. Boom! A violent airflow, mixed with an extremely cold aura, quickly spread out. Lei Xingfeng dodged in an instant. His target was a battle puppet. An illusory broadsword had condensed in his right hand, flickering with dazzling silver light and countless arcs of electricity. Lei Xingfeng raised his hand, and the illusory broadsword quickly enlarged. In the blink of an eye, it had reached more than 4 meters long. Then it slashed down. With a thunderous boom, the giant lightning blade chopped down. The corner of Tang Gung's eyes twitched. Only then did he realize that Lei Xingfeng actually possessed the rare thunder attribute. One should know that the thunder attribute was extremely difficult to deal with. This thing was very abnormal and could freeze the opponent. One should know that thunder attribute cultivators were known to be able to sweep away those of the same level. Of course, this was a little exaggerated, but it also showed that thunder attribute cultivators were extremely difficult to deal with. What made Tang Gung most uncomfortable was that Lei Xingfeng wasn't the only one with the lightning attribute. Gao Yi's attribute was also very abnormal. An ice attribute cultivator's attack power was similarly sharp. Furthermore, ice attribute cultivators were born with the ability to delay their opponents. They were also extremely difficult opponents to deal with. Tang Gung was an earth attribute cultivator and had extremely strong defense. He was originally quite careful, but after obtaining the 4 battle puppets, his confidence began to swell. This robbery and extortion was just to get something and not to kill. However, when he saw that Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng were both cultivators with special attributes, he began to panic. Jing Zia stopped at the side with a giant axe in her hand. It was obvious that she was guarding against him from leaving the battle circle. 2 battle puppets were dealing with Gao Yi, 1 battle puppet was dealing with Lei Xingfeng, and the remaining battle puppet was protecting Tang Gong. This guy was hiding behind the battle puppet, blinking his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. The battle puppets were basically all physical attacks. They had extremely strong defense and sharp attack power. However, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng weren't ordinary people, especially Gao Yi, who had reached the peak stage of the Heaven Monarch realm. After a few probing attacks, he was already confident. Lei Xingfeng had also tested a few moves. He gradually realized that although the battle puppets were very fierce, as long as they were out of direct contact, the battle puppets didn't have any extra moves. They just kept on charging at an extremely fast speed. However, Lei Xingfeng's speed was even faster. He was a lightning attribute cultivator, and speed was one of his most proficient skills. Even if he wasn't as fast as lightning, he wasn't far behind. He used the illusory lightning hand to slap the battle puppets. Every time, he could successfully fix the battle puppets in place for a few seconds. However, every time this happened, the battle puppet that was attacking Gao Yi would block another attack from Lei Xingfeng. The 3 battle puppets cooperated well, which gave Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi a headache. This thing was like a piece of incomparably hard metal that couldn't be killed no matter how they hit it. Lei Xingfeng successfully fixed another battle puppet, but the other battle puppet had already pounced over. In an instant, it blocked Lei Xingfeng's second attack. However, at this moment, Jing Zia suddenly disappeared and suddenly appeared beside the battle puppet that was fixed in place. She swept the giant axe horizontally at the back of the battle puppet's neck. This was the battle puppet's real weakness. Tang Gong was so frightened that he yelled. He didn't have time to save the battle puppet and only had time to shoot out a yellow light ball. That yellow light ball wasn't aimed at Jing Zia, but it directly hit the battle puppet that was in danger. In an instant, the battle puppet's body glowed with dazzling golden light. At the same time, Jing Zia's giant axe horizontally chopped at the back of the battle puppet's neck. Ka! The incomparably large force of impact sent the battle doll flying tens of meters away. Exi and Feng followed closely behind, instantly arriving beside the battle doll, grabbing its head with one hand and pressing down on its shoulder with the other. With a shout, with a kacha sound, he actually twisted its head off. The reason why it was so easy to succeed was because Jing Zia's axe had opened a 2-finger-deep wound on the battle puppet's neck. This allowed Lei Xingfeng to quickly kill it. Lei Xingfeng unceremoniously put the battle puppet into his hidden Luin space. This kind of treasure, even if damaged, was very hard to come by. In the future, if he had the time, he could slowly analyze it and obtain the overall structure of the battle puppet and find a way to subdue it. Tang Gong screamed. He was about to go crazy. These 4 battle puppets were his treasures and his greatest reliance on this land. How could he not be anxious when one of them was killed by Lei Xingfeng as soon as the battle started? His whole body felt like it was about to burn. He roared and couldn't stay calm any longer. At this time, Gao Yi also succeeded. A thick icicle directly pierced through the back of a battle puppet's neck and was then put into his hidden Luin space. Tang Gong was frightened. In less than 10 seconds of battle, he had already lost 2 battle puppets. Even a fool would know that he wasn't a match for the 2 of them. Exi and Feng waved his hand, and in an instant, dozens of steel mannequins appeared and surrounded the 2 battle mannequins, while Jing Zia jumped onto a large metal spider and commanded the steel mannequins to fight against the battle mannequins. The steel mannequins were much weaker than the battle mannequins. As long as they met, the battle mannequins could easily shatter them. However, with Jing Zia's command, the situation was completely different. The steel mannequins moved crazily, circling around the 2 battle mannequins and not fighting them head-on. With Jing Zia's control, the battle puppets couldn't concentrate. The rapidly moving steel puppets caused the battle puppets to be at a loss. They didn't know which one to attack. At this time, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng looked at each other and very tacitly pounced on Tang Geng. A series of dazzling changes made Tang Geng completely dumbfounded. He didn't know what was going on. None of the battle puppets beside him were there. Facing two experts with deep hostility, Tang Geng didn't think much and turned to run. However, at this moment, his whole body was covered in cold sweat. That feeling of extreme danger made him use all of his strength. The only thought in his mind was to run quickly. The feeling of death floated in his heart. At this moment, Tang Geng's earth attribute was fully displayed. Whether it was Lei Xingfeng's lightning hand or Gao Ye's ice hand, they couldn't stop Tang Geng. When a heavenly monarch wanted to escape with all his strength, it was very difficult for other heavenly monarchs to stop him. Even if there were two heavenly monarchs, it would be useless. Watching Tang Geng escape into the forest, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng ran back at the same time. What a joke! There were still two battle puppets. If they didn't catch them now, when would they catch them? They were absolute treasures and were much better than any other human puppets. Without a command, the battle puppet's intelligence was not as good as Jing Ziya's. Amidst the roars, Lei Xingfeng fixed them with lightning and then quickly tied them up with metal ropes. Jing Ziya was very experienced in dispelling their battle abilities. Lei Xingfeng obtained two more battle puppets. Of course, these things had to be reprogrammed and recharged by Jing Ziya. Putting away the steel puppets and metal spiders, Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "This guy didn't come to fight. He came to give us gifts, haha." Gao Yi also laughed a few times and said, "Where are the others?" Lei Xingfeng said they should be hiding. He, they are very clever. They should be afraid of affecting our battle. Before he finished speaking, he heard a burst of exclamations from the forest not far away. There are also sounds of battle. Gao Yi's expression changed slightly. Lei Xingfeng didn't say anything at all and directly rushed into the forest. Just as he reached the edge of the forest, he saw Tang Geng walking out of the forest with one captive in each hand and a circle of people around him. Lei Xingfeng let out a long breath. He was afraid that Tang Geng would kill his senior brothers and sisters. If that happened, even if he was killed, he probably wouldn't be able to take it. Tang Geng smiled sinisterly and proudly. He had one hand around Tung Yuan's neck and the other around the neck of a Nine Rings bodyguard. This bodyguard was Tung Yuan's bodyguard. He dragged the two of them out and gritted his teeth. "I have never suffered such a big loss in my life, bastard. I thought you guys didn't have any openings." Lei Xingfeng shouted, "All of you come back." Xi and Zhaoluan and the others angrily returned to Lei Xingfeng's side. Whether it was Xi and Zhaoluan or Qi Meiyun, they all felt powerless. This person had killed his way into the crowd. No matter what kind of attack they used, they couldn't hurt him at all. Because Tung Yuan and Miao Ling were the weakest, they were surrounded by everyone to protect them. Tang Geng thought that they were important people, so he didn't care about the others and directly grabbed Tung Yuan. Tung Yuan's bodyguards went up to fight with their lives, but they were also caught by him. Tang Geng sneered and said, "Hand over my treasures and compensate me for my losses." Jing Ziya suddenly said in Lei Xingfeng's ear, "Okay." Although Gao Yi didn't understand what Jing Ziya meant, he knew that Lei Xingfeng was very smart. Lei Xingfeng obviously understood what Jing Ziya meant. He slowly nodded and said, "I will negotiate." Chapter 430. Tang Geng sneered as he watched Lei Xingfeng walk forward. Of course, Gao Yi remained where he was. If the two of them came together, he would probably have to retreat. Only Jing Ziya followed Lei Xingfeng. However, she didn't have the giant axe in her hand this time and didn't seem to be a threat. Tang Geng knew that this female puppet wasn't easy to fight. Lei Xingfeng said, "What are you going to do? If you kill them, I swear that I will hunt you down until you die." It was necessary to threaten him first so that he wouldn't dare to be ruthless. Once he wanted to kill someone, he had to consider the consequences first. Tang Geng said, "You don't have to threaten me. I know what to do. If you push me too far, we'll just die together. Even if I can't die with you too, none of your subordinates will live." Lei Xingfeng knew that he wasn't bluffing. If a heaven monarch wanted to risk his life, he and Gao, you wouldn't be able to protect this group of people. However, he also had a trump card. If it really came to that, he could directly open the mirror world and quickly take them into it. However, he didn't want to expose the existence of the mirror world unless it was absolutely necessary. Gao Yi said, "Remember, don't let me see you alone. I will beat you up every time I see you. Even if I can't kill you, I won't let you live in peace." Tang Geng's face turned slightly pale. He also knew the consequences of angering a peak heaven monarch. It was quite bad. Lei Xingfeng said indifferently, "Say it. What do you want? I'm warning you. You provoke me first. Don't ask for too much, or else." The implication was that if it was really too much, they would fight to the death. Tang Geng was also a little uneasy. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Give me back my 4 treasures." Lei Xingfeng said, "2 of them are damaged, and the other 2 are intact. I'm not returning them to you. I'm exchanging them for 2 of us." Bargaining was necessary. Tang Geng shouted, "Impossible. Otherwise, I will risk my life to kill them." Gao Yi said, "Kill me, and I'll see." Lei Xingfeng's heart skipped a beat. He didn't want senior brother Tang Yuan to be killed. Before he could say anything, Tang Geng gave in and said, "At least, give me 2 of my treasures in exchange." As soon as he said this, Lei Xingfeng let out a sigh of relief. He couldn't help but cheer in his heart. "It's done." He said, "Good." Lei Xingfeng said, "Jing Zia, release the 2 battle puppets. Tang Geng, release the people as well." In order to retrieve the battle doll, Tang Geng had to release Tang Yuan and his guards. The battle doll slowly walked over, and Tang Yuan and his guards slowly walked back. When the 2 clashed, Tang Geng shouted, "Do it!" Strangely, at this moment, Jing Zia's clear voice sounded at the same time. "Do it!" Then, Tang Geng was dumbfounded. The 2 battle dolls pounced on him crazily instead of Tang Yuan and his guards. In a flash, Tang Geng understood that the opponent had an expert in controlling the battle dolls. He actually managed to break the battle dolls in such a short time. In an instant, he only had time to raise his defense. An intense golden brilliance flashed. Bang! Bang! 2 loud sounds. Tang Geng was thrown out. At this moment, he couldn't care less. He frantically flew into the distance and shouted, "I will not let you go. Ah, ayaya, Motherf asterisk cur." His voice was still floating in the air, but he had already disappeared. This was the power of a heaven monarch. Even if he was surrounded by so many experts, if he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. Xian Zhaoluan's nose turned even redder. He exclaimed, "Amazing! Who would have thought that he would betray us at such a time?" Anyone who was paying attention to the battle just now saw that Tang Geng was injured. Gao Yi said, "This person can't do anything to us, but if you encounter him, you will be in big trouble. So, in the future, you have to follow at least a heaven monarch expert when you go out." Xian Zhaoluan and the others all had bitter faces. In their sect, there were only 3 heaven monarchs. Even their master was only a peak perfected lord. They were not even as strong as Lei Xingfeng. Who could protect them? At this moment, they all felt that their cultivation was too weak. Lei Xingfeng said, "It's okay. This world is very big. It's hard to meet him even if you want to. But it's right to be careful when you go out." Xian Zhaoluan sighed. "Why go back this time? I want to advance. No matter how dangerous it is, I can't go on like this." In fact, he had been on the verge of advancing for a long time. It was just that in his hometown, there were few times when he was threatened, so he didn't have the motivation to advance. Now, he knew that if he didn't advance, it would be difficult for him to even go out. This was a bit too much. The others had similar thoughts. In the past, they had guards protecting them and elders taking care of them, so their lives were too comfortable. Who would have thought that after coming here, it would be so difficult? All of them made up their minds to cultivate properly and not be lazy anymore. This was especially true for Tang Yuan. Just like Jean Depeng, he was a standard foodie who didn't put much effort into cultivation. Being captured this time was the biggest blow to him. Gao Yi didn't say much. He directly opened the secret door. Everyone returned to the camp through the secret door. Not long after they reached home, AI-8 came over and said, "Ancestor is back. He wants you to go." Lei Xingfeng patted his head and said, "I'll go right away." AI-8 left. Lei Xingfeng sighed. So busy. Gao Yi smiled and said, I'll go with you. Lei Xingfeng said, Okay, let's go together. The two quickly arrived at Wu Yang's house. There were only Wu Yang and Gucci in the room. Seeing the two enter, Wu Yang and Gucci both stood up to greet them. Lei Xingfeng's status was completely different now. According to the rules, he could call Wu Yang senior brother. Even more abnormal was that according to the rules, Gucci even had to call him martial uncle. However, Lei Xingfeng couldn't do it at all, nor could he accept such a title. He said, Ancestor, master. Gao Yi nodded slightly. His strength wasn't much different from Wu Yang's, so he had to be respectful. Wu Yang smiled and said, A phone, brother Gao, please sit. Gucci said, A phone, we've already set up a super long-distance secret door. We're preparing to move most of the people guarding the secret treasure space over. Do you want to go back? Lei Xingfeng immediately said, Yes, I want to go back. As long as he could confirm the location of the secret treasure space, he wouldn't need Wu Yang's secret door. He could directly enter the secret treasure space through the mirror realm. In other words, even if Wu Yang and the others gave up on the secret treasure space, he could still use it. The most powerful ability of the mirror realm was that it ignored distance. The more places you went, the more coordinates you had. Wu Yang nodded and said, Yes, little phone will go back too. He's going to organize people to come through the secret door. This time, he'll use a lot of sky divination crystals. Lei Xingfeng said, Is it enough? I still have a lot of sky divination crystals. Wu Yang said, If you have extra, give me some. It uses too much energy. With sky divination crystals, it'll be much better. Lei Xingfeng immediately took out 2 boxes of sky divination crystals. Each box contained 6 crystals. Wu Yang immediately smiled and said, A phone, you're even richer than me. Haha, with these sky divination crystals, I'll save a lot of energy. Otherwise, who knows how many Yin rings I'll have to use. Lei Xingfeng asked, Is there any news of Yi? Wu Yang was silent for a moment, then said, I've sent people to look for him. There are also people waiting outside the secret treasure space, but they haven't seen him yet. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but sigh. Who knew that the secret door would change like this? If he had known, he wouldn't have let the old man out. It was really difficult to find him now. Fortunately, after returning this time and confirming the coordinates, he could send his own people to wait there and then send others to look for him. Wu Yang smiled and comforted him. It'll be fine. Almost all of the experts in the secret door have left. There aren't any experts left on that continent, and even sages with 6 rings and above are hard to find. Plus, that place is a mess right now. If we move away, others will move in. Once they develop, that continent will be over. Yes, it's completely over for cultivators. I dare say that the experts in the future won't surpass sages with 3 rings, and will decline bit by bit until there are no more cultivators left. Wu Yang directly declared that the continent was a land of death for cultivators. Lei Xingfeng was secretly shocked. He didn't expect Wu Yang to be so pessimistic about his hometown. Gucci agreed. Even if there are a few left in the secret door, they won't be able to hold on in the end. In the end, they'll still chase after our footsteps and escape. At that time, there won't be any high-level cultivators left. Once there are no high-level cultivators, even the most talented, ordinary people won't be able to cultivate. Gao Yi said, even if there are a few super geniuses who cultivate to monarch, they'll still suffocate there because they can't come to the outer space. If they don't come here, they can't leave. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, What do you mean? Gao Yi said, Don't you know? This place is a springboard. We can use this place to enter the great world. Wu Yang said, Yes, this place is a springboard. However, we can't go to the outside world for now. Let's wait until we're stronger. Otherwise, we won't even know how we died. Actually, the Dawn continent is also a springboard. Unfortunately, we couldn't pass it and were directly defeated. Lei Xingfeng said, We'll be cultivating here. Once we're strong enough, we'll go to the outside world. Wu Yang nodded and said, We'll only be able to go if there are at least a few Dao Monarch level experts. Otherwise, it'll be too dangerous. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but click his tongue. It wasn't that easy to become a Dao Monarch. Perhaps only by finding a suitable cultivation technique here would it be slightly easier to become a Dao monarch. This was probably the wish of all high-level cultivators of the secret door. Gao Yi said, "Easier said than done. I've stayed here for so long, but I've only just become a heavenly monarch. I almost died here." Wu Yang said, "That's if you're alone. Without anyone's help, you're all alone. Although we cultivators value strength above all else, it's still better to have more people. Especially in a group of people with a few great masters in the lead, you'll have more options to deal with the crisis." Gao Yi nodded in agreement. This trip proved that these words were true. If it weren't for Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia, it would be almost impossible for Gao Yi to defeat Tang Gong with his strength alone. After all, there was strength in numbers, especially when there were more people and more experts. They had the strength to crush their opponents. Fighting alone was definitely not the style of the secret door. Chapter 431. After the hidden sect moved over, the luxurious life immediately became difficult. Everyone was trying their best to adapt. The originally lazy lifestyle was forced to change. If one didn't work hard here, they would be eliminated very quickly. This change was extremely beneficial to the hidden sect. Wu Yang and Gucci understood this point, so they were very determined to move. Wu Yang said, "Follow me. I'll send you there first." The few of them arrived at the secret room Wu Yang built. It was a very simple underground secret room. A secret door was already set up. Wu Yang said, "For this secret door, I spent a lot of materials, but I had no choice but to set it up. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to go back." Lei Xingfeng already knew that secret doors were separated into internal and external ones. Only the secret door, set up outside, could be used for long-distance teleportation. It was different from the mirror world. Once the distance was exceeded, even a heaven monarch would be helpless. There was a small secret to this success. After confirming the location of the Dawn continent, it was equivalent to having a springboard. This allowed Heaven Monarch realm experts to use the secret door to go back. Wu Yang inserted the Sky Evolution Crystal into the secret door. This time, he inserted 2 Sky Evolution Crystals, which could be used for a period of time. He couldn't help but sigh and say, "How extravagant! 2 Sky Evolution Crystals. Even in outer space, it's very difficult to obtain Sky Evolution Crystals." Instantly, Wu Yang opened the secret door and said, "Go." Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi stepped inside. After coming out of Wu Yang's secret room, Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi walked out of Wu Yang's residence. Gao Yi said, "This is the secret room you're living in?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, it seems like we have to give up." Gao Yi said, "It's indeed a pity. The secret room is the best place for a sect to stay. It's hidden and safe. In ancient times, there were also powerful existences who could directly open up such a living space." Lei Xingfeng said, "The mirror world is more advanced than this." Gao Yi said, "The mirror world has its own benefits, but the hidden space also has its own benefits. First of all, the hidden space is much bigger than the mirror world. Also, it is attached to a continent, so it can get a lot of supplies, and it can grow bit by bit." Lei Xingfeng said, "For me, the mirror realm is more practical." Gao Yi nodded. "Of course, you're destined to run around everywhere. The mirror realm is an excellent transportation hub. With this treasure, it'll be convenient for you to go anywhere." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "You also have a certain amount of power, so you can enjoy the same benefits." Gao Yi laughed. "I didn't think that joining would bring me such benefits, He was very proud of himself. He felt that his choice this time was very wise. He had been alone for many years, and he understood the pain and suffering. If he wasn't a resilient person, he wouldn't be able to bear it. Going crazy was a light punishment. It was very likely that he would find a large forbidden area and run around madly. He would also die silently. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go to my house." Gao Yi said, "Is there anyone else at home? Based on your temper, I reckon everyone is in the mirror realm." Lei Xingfeng said, "I left a few people behind. I didn't take everyone with me." Lei Xingfeng's house was very close to Wu Yang's residence. The two of them quickly returned to Lei Xingfeng's house. As they walked into the courtyard, Gao Yi couldn't help but praise, "What a beautiful house, he." The house here was beautifully built. It was built with excellent materials, and it was very old. It was simple and luxurious. It was quite a shock. There were a few attendants left at home. When they saw Lei Xingfeng come in, they were all ecstatic. They all thought that Lei Xingfeng had abandoned them. They didn't expect to see their master. They all came forward to salute him. Lei Xingfeng knew what they were thinking. He said, "Don't worry. From now on, there will be shifts." When they arrived at the wooden shed, Lei Xingfeng immediately let Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, Tiger Love, Ishannel, and Jean Depang out. Jean Dia saw the familiar house and couldn't help but be stunned. He said, This, you're back?" Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were also stunned. They looked at each other and sighed at the same time. Mad Eagle said, "A Feng is getting more and more powerful." Jean Depang cheered. He was most familiar with this place. Since he followed Lei Xingfeng, he had spent most of his time here. He already had a deep affection for this place. He ran to the back. His big kitchen was at the back. It was built by him. He had to see it when he came back. As he ran to the back, he said, "Wait here. I'll cook something delicious." Everyone couldn't help but laugh. Ishannel said, "Master, let some people out. Otherwise, I won't be able to command them." Lei Xingfeng nodded and let 7 or 8 attendants out. Although these people were ignorant, they were smart enough not to say anything. People at the bottom had their own philosophy of survival. Although Lei Xingfeng was very generous and wouldn't casually punish people, Ishannel wasn't so easy to talk to. The whole house suddenly became lively. Any building that lacked people would quickly decline. Ishannel led a group of people and began to tidy up the yard. Jean Depang quickly made a table full of food. This time, he didn't forget to give the blackbird a plate of freshly cut meat and put it on the table. The blackbird enjoyed this kind of treatment very much. It was rare that it didn't have a poisonous tongue. It flew to the table and began to peck. In fact, Lei Xingfeng ate less and less because his body rarely got energy from food. Most of the energy he needed was from Lei Yin. However, his hobby was eating. In essence, he was no different from Jean Depang. This had become the most important thing in his mind. It was hard to give up. From filling his stomach to eating delicious food, Lei Xingfeng had very high requirements for food. If it wasn't delicious, he would rather not eat it. It wasn't necessary. Delicious food was the only thing that mattered. Whether it was rice or noodles, Lei Xingfeng basically didn't touch them. He ate all kinds of dishes. He ate very little, just savoring the good taste. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Jean, you can stay here in the future. If you want to find me, it's very convenient. Just go back to the mirror world. I've already given you permission." Jean Depang nodded. "No problem. Leave more people for me. Since this place is going to be abandoned in the future, we'll take it." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "That's right. This is still an important base for us. In the future, you can recruit some people from outside. I believe many people will be willing to come. Also, pay attention to those with cultivation potential. The development of our school depends on the people here." Mad Eagle said, "That's not a problem. If I have time, I'll go there too. It's very convenient anyway." Tiger Love agreed. "Phone, don't worry about this. With us here, there will be an endless stream of disciples." Gao Yi clapped and smiled. "Very good, very good. The other secret sects have all lost their legacies. Without successors, even if their strength is at its peak, it's useless. People will die eventually. It's just a matter of time. Only legacies can't be lost. With the mirror world and the hidden treasure space, you can take root in the mortal world." Hee, a smart move. Lei Xingfeng was very happy. "It's not that I'm smart. It's because I have the mirror world that I can do this. Yes, when my cultivation increases a bit, I can tell Master and Grandmaster about the mirror world." Gao Yi understood Xian Feng's way of doing things. A child would not be able to possess such a large amount of wealth that would cause countless unexpected fights. Only when the child grows into a strong man would there be no conflicts, as a strong man would have the ability to protect himself. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to challenge Grandmaster and Grandmaster's bottom line. He didn't want Grandmaster and Grandmaster to make bad decisions because of the mirror world. This kind of blow was something he couldn't bear. Some relationships had to be protected very carefully. This meal was very enjoyable. Jean Depang was already an indispensable figure in Lei Xingfeng's family. With him at home, everyone felt like they had returned home. This was a large family. Xian Feng didn't expect that without much management, it would become a large family with him as the leader. However, he didn't have any conflicting thoughts. If he could become strong, there was no reason to reject it, especially with the cruelty of this world. It was much more severe than his previous world. Without strength, he would definitely be eaten by others until nothing was left. After the meal, Lei Xingfeng began to assign people. Those who needed to go out to search for people were sent out to look for people, and those who needed to guard the house were sent out to guard the house. There were many ordinary people in the hidden space. They were all abandoned by the hidden door. They were supposed to live and die on their own, but after Lei Xingfeng returned, he immediately sent people to take care of them. At this time, someone rushed in and shouted, "The old man is back." It was a servant, a third ring sage. He was so excited because Lei Xingfeng once said that whoever found the old man would be rewarded with 10 yin rings. For a third ring sage, 10 yin rings was a large fortune. Whether it was for his own use or to trade, it was the best reward. Lei Xingfeng was stunned, then overjoyed. He couldn't help but laugh. Good. He raised his hand and threw a small leather bag to the servant. The attendant could tell with a pinch that there were more than 10 yin rings inside. Of course, he also understood that he couldn't take all of these yin rings by himself. He wasn't the only one guarding the hidden treasure. Even so, he was overjoyed at the unexpected turn of events. Lei Xingfeng stood up and ran out. Just as he reached the entrance, he saw Thunderstorm walking over. When he saw Thunderstorm, Lei Xingfeng immediately let out a sigh of relief. He was still a 9th ring sage. He was afraid that Thunderstorm would really advance. If that happened, it would be difficult for him to go to the magnetic storm mountain range to cultivate. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Ai, I've been looking for you for a long time." Thunderstorm was surprised. "Why are you looking for me?" "Hee, you're thinking of Ai, aren't you?" "A phone. You're not a child anymore. You need to learn to be independent." Lei Xingfeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Ai, it's not like that. The hidden door has moved. If you don't come back soon, you won't be able to find us." Actually, he was exaggerating. After all, with the mirror world, this place wasn't considered abandoned. If he wanted to come back, he could come back at any time. The old man Lei Bao was shocked. "What do you mean? Move?" No matter how knowledgeable he was, he didn't know the secrets of the hidden door. Of course, he didn't know the situation. Outside, he had been looking for Thunderstorm's rain for a long time, but he couldn't find a suitable location. The main reason was that Thunderstorm's reign was very short and didn't have a fixed duration. Even if he did, it would dissipate quickly. How could he dare to take the risk of advancing? It was normal for him to fail. Chapter 432. Lei Xingfeng pulled Elder Thunderstorm into the courtyard, and everyone went forward to greet them. Elder Thunderstorm was no longer the irascible old man he used to be. After creating his own cultivation technique, the violent thunder and lightning could no longer affect his character. Lei Xingfeng led Elder Thunderstorm to Gao Yi and said, "This is Senior Gao Yi, a heaven monarch." Gao Yi immediately smiled and said, "No need to be so polite. Afeng, you are also a heaven monarch. Your grandfather is also my elder." Thunderstorm was shocked. His brain was in a mess. What did that mean? After a while, he slapped his head and said, "I am old, and my ears are probably not good. This, Afeng, is a heaven monarch." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yi, you will reach it soon. I found a place to cultivate in the magnetic storm mountains. There's also a cultivation technique. Yi, you are also of the thunder attribute. That is a place for thunder attribute cultivation." Gao Yi said, "You didn't hear wrongly. Afeng is a heaven monarch." Old master, you have profited. It is your fortune to have such a grandson." Thunderstorm hurriedly waved his hand and said, "I don't dare to call you that." "What a joke. A heaven monarch calling him old master was something he couldn't accept. Gao Yi shook his head and said, "Old master, don't be modest. Once you cultivate in the magnetic storm mountains, I believe you will reach the heaven monarch realm soon. Even if you can't, you will definitely be a true monarch realm expert. You are also a Fangzai," Thunderstorm said. "Don't. I will call you elder brother. Consider it as me taking advantage." The seniority was suddenly in a mess. Lei Xingfeng didn't mind it. It was just a form of address anyway. He nodded at Gao Yi. Gao Yi smiled and said, "All right, consider it as me taking advantage." Thunderstorm grabbed Lei Xingfeng's hand and carefully sized it up for a moment. He suddenly laughed a few times and revealed an extremely gratified expression. He repeatedly said, "Good child, good child." After finding Thunderstorm, Lei Xingfeng could finally relax. As long as he found Lei Xingyao, he could give Thunderstorm and Lei Xingyao the right to control the secret door of the mirror realm. Only those who had the right to control the door could return to the mirror realm at any time. This would give Thunderstorm and Lei Xingyao a super shelter. If they were in danger, they could definitely escape into the mirror realm. Of course, there were differences in the right to control. Lei Xingfeng was the one who had the right to control. He could not only use the secret door, but he could also bring people in and out. However, the other people who had the right to control the door could only use it themselves. They could enter and leave, but they could not bring people in. They could leave, but they had to go to the secret door of the mirror realm. Now, there were a few people who had the right to control the door. The first was Jean Daya, followed by Tiger Love and Mad Eagle. After all, they had been with him for the longest time and were very close to him. Then there was Gao Yi. Now that Grandpa Lei was here, Grandpa Lei also had the right to control the door. Finally, Lei Xingfeng planned to give Lei Xingyao the right to control the door. In the future, he would also give the right to control the door to his master, ancestor, and the others. He had already calculated that if he did not tell his master now, it would not mean that he would not tell him in the future. He took Grandpa Lei into the mirror realm and introduced Jingzia to Grandpa Lei. Then he asked Jingzia to give one of the two battle dolls to Grandpa Lei and the other one to Lei Xingyao. He was now strong enough, so he cared about Grandpa Lei and Lei Xingyao's safety. Thinking of Tangung, he felt funny. In this battle, he had lost 4 battle dolls, which were much better than Li Shi. Tangung must be hiding in a dark corner, cursing crazily. Thunderstorm asked, "How powerful is this thing?" Jingzia replied, "According to the ranking of strength in your world, it's between a peak monarch and a primary lord of heaven. It's quite powerful." She admitted that she couldn't defeat the battle dolls, but she had no problem escaping because her intelligence was much higher than the battle dolls. Thunderstorm laughed and said, "Well, if I have this battle doll, I won't be afraid even if I face a monarch." Jingzia said seriously, "Of course, the premise is that you can protect yourself. If you are killed, no matter how powerful the battle dolls are, they will be useless." Lei Xingfeng had a headache. Jingzia was a puppet, and she always spoke the truth. She didn't care whether it was good or bad. She just said it directly. Thunderstorm burst into laughter. He didn't blame Jingzia because he was old enough to be muddle-headed. He said, "Ha, you're right. But don't worry, I will be stronger than the battle dolls." He said confidently. His words were quite heroic. He had never been afraid of old age, let alone a puppet. Jingzia nodded and said, "I believe you." Then she took a step back. Thunderstorm was a little curious and asked, "Why do you believe me?" Jingzia said, "Because you are a Fangzai Yi. It's that simple." Her words revealed her great confidence in Lei Xingfeng. Thunderstorm also understood this. He said, "You have confidence in a foam. Good, good." He took Thunderstorm around and met the people in the mirror world. He said, "Yi, you can rest in your home in the mirror world first. When I finish my business, I will take you to the magnetic storm mountain to cultivate. That place is really a treasure for thunder cultivators." Then he took out the thunder cultivation method and said, "Yi, this is the cultivation method. I have asked Jingzia to translate it. You can read it first. If you have any questions, you can ask me at any time." Thunderstorm took the Star Python record and said with emotion, "A phone, your opportunity is much better than mine. I benefited from it." Lei Xingfeng's face was full of smiles. He was happier to be able to help Yi than to be able to reach the Lord of Heaven. He knew very well that if Yi couldn't advance, his lifespan would be almost up. If he followed the original path and forcibly advanced, he would be very uneasy. That method was likely to cause the old man to die. Even if Lei Xingfeng gave him a lot of materials and even a super precious Saint Crystal, he didn't dare to say that the old man would be able to advance smoothly. However, the magnetic storm mountain range was completely different. This was a successful cultivation system. There was also lightning that could assist in cultivation. The most important thing was the lightning plasma. This was a treasure that was completely different from the lightning plasma. Lightning plasma and lightning plasma. One couldn't say which one was better. However, lightning plasma was more suitable for cultivation, while lightning plasma was more suitable for use. These thoughts circled in Lei Xingfeng's mind. He smiled and said, "Yi, familiarize yourself with the Star Python record first. Then I will bring you to the magnetic storm mountain, and you can cultivate directly." Thunderstorm said, "After cultivating this technique, I will be able to advance, right?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "I don't know if I will advance or not. After I cultivated this technique, I didn't encounter any bottlenecks. Instead, I directly attained the strength of a Lord of Heaven. Yes, the strength of an early-stage Lord of Heaven. In the magnetic storm mountain, I also found a special cultivation place on the opposite cliff. It's just that I can't enter it now. Perhaps I will be able to enter it after my cultivation improves a little." Thunderstorm only skimmed through it briefly. He frowned slightly and said, "Lack of materials, thunder plasma? Is it Diangong lightning serum?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "There are similarities between the two, but they're not the same thing. Yi, don't worry. I have thunder plasma, which is enough for Yi." Thunderstorm nodded and said, "Yes, other than this, I will find a way to collect the rest." Lei Xingfeng said, "No need. I have collected all of them. Just ask me if you lack anything." Thunderstorm smiled and said, "That will save a lot of trouble." Gao Yi couldn't help but say, "I am envious." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yi, you go and rest first. We still have to return to the secret treasure space. There are some things we need to deal with." Thunderstorm waved his hand and said, "Okay, you go and do your things. I still need time to read the Star Python record." He turned and walked into the room. After Lei Xingfeng was done, he could bring him to the magnetic storm mountain. With Lei Xingfeng around, he didn't have to worry about his own cultivation. Lei Xingfeng brought Gao Yi back to the secret treasure space. Jean Dias said, "A phone. Someone just reported that there are many people in the Heaven Alliance who want to join. Should we accept them?" "Heaven Alliance?" Lei Xingfeng thought for a while and said, "Is the Heaven Alliance the one we went to before?" Xi and Xiaoluan's nose turned red. Back then, he was embarrassed because of a woman. Of course, he had nothing to do with that woman. At that time, he went to the Heaven Alliance, and Lei Xingfeng accepted a few people. He said, "Yes, it is the Heaven Alliance." Lei Xingfeng said, "No problem. Accept those who want to join. Well, pick them out. Don't accept those with bad character." Jean Dia thought for a while and said, "Okay, I will do it." Lei Xingfeng said, "In the future, as long as they are cultivators and want to join, we will accept them. We have too few people. The secret treasure space is empty." After arranging the matters in the secret treasure space, Lei Xingfeng brought Gao Yi back to the mirror realm to rest. He basically lived in the mirror realm now. This was the center of his activities. It was very convenient for him to go anywhere. The transportation network formed by the mirror realm was gradually formed. It was very convenient for Lei Xingfeng to go to the outer space or return to the original continent. The next day, Lei Xingfeng returned to the secret treasure space. Jean Dia and Tiger Love had already gone out. Only Mad Eagle and Jean Depang were at home. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle Jean went out?" Mad Eagle said with a smile, "He went to the Heaven Alliance. I guess he will bring a lot of people back." Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, after they come, You can screen them. Those with better qualifications can stay. The rest can cultivate and work here. I will bring those with better qualifications to the mirror realm. Mad Eagle said, no problem. Jean Depang said, a phone, there is nothing else here. I will go back to the mirror realm first. He also had control rights. However, because of his low cultivation, he couldn't control the secret treasure space. He could go in and out at any time. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, you don't have to tell me. You decide where to go. Jean Depang smiled and said, you are the boss. Of course you have to tell me. A month later, Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi returned to the camp in the outer space through the secret treasure space's secret treasure space. Although he could go back by himself, he couldn't explain why, so he still used Wu Yang's secret treasure space. Chapter 433. At this time, the camp had expanded several times. Wu Yang had brought a large number of people to the camp, including many ordinary people who were the family members of the cultivators. Many small villages had been built near the camp. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi walked all the way home. All the cultivators who saw them bowed to them. The news had already spread in the camp. As the youngest direct disciple, Lei Xingfeng had reached the Lord of Heaven level and was one of the most powerful masters in the camp. He had almost become a legend in the camp. He was the youngest, and the fastest to improve his cultivation. He was admired by everyone. When they got home, Gao Yi laughed. This is the benefit of having a high cultivation. Haha, your status in the camp is equal to your ancestor. Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, far from it. Let's go back to the mirror world. I'm going to take Yi to the magnetic storm mountains. Gao Yi said, I don't need to go this time. I'll stay here and guard the camp. I'll go back to the mirror world when it's time for dinner. Lei Xingfeng nodded. That's good. You stay here and help me look after the camp. It's not very safe here. If there are enemies, you can help to resist them. Gao Yi laughed. No problem. I'm also a member of the camp. Lei Xingfeng smiled and returned to the mirror world. Thunderstorm was already waiting in the yard. Lei Xingfeng didn't waste time. He directly took Thunderstorm and Jing Zia through the secret door of the mirror world and entered the hall in the magnetic storm mountains. They followed the passage to one of the rooms. All the rooms here could be used. It was conceivable that there were many thunder cultivators in the past. When Thunderstorm heard the rumbling thunder, he immediately became excited. After entering the room, he saw the door leading to the platform. The brilliance from the door illuminated the whole room. Thunderstorm took a few steps to the door and exclaimed, This is the world of thunder and lightning. Lei Xingfeng nodded. Yes, this is the world of thunder and lightning. It's a paradise for us thunder cultivators. Thunderstorm said, All right, you can go back now. I'll cultivate by myself. Lei Xingfeng was a little worried. Is there anything else you need me to do? Thunderstorm suddenly laughed and said, My Feng has grown up. He can already care about Aye's cultivation, hee. Lei Xingfeng blushed and said, Aye, I'm just concerned. Thunderstorm was relieved. I know. Aye is happy. Go. Don't worry about Aye. He was an extremely experienced cultivator and had a deeper understanding of lightning than Lei Xingfeng. Even if Lei Xingfeng had some concepts from his previous life, he still couldn't compare to him. Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment. He had given all the materials that Thunderstorm could use, so he didn't need to worry. He said, All right, Aye, I'll go back first. Bringing Jing Zio with him, Xi and Feng returned to the mirror world. At this point, he could finally let out a sigh of relief. The next step was to find Lei Xi and Yao. Not only did he obtain so many precious herbs, but he also wanted Lei Xi and Yao to come to the mirror world. Only then would he feel safe. If he wanted to find Lei Xingyao, he had to find Wu Yang. Only he knew about the camps of the secret sections. This time, Lei Xingfeng went to Wu Yang's house alone. Unexpectedly, Wu Yang was not around. Chief Steward Aiba said, The ancestor went to the master's place. Lei Xingfeng said, Master, what's the matter? Ai Pa Dao said, Master is about to break through. Ancestor went to protect him. Lei Xingfeng didn't say anything. He turned around and ran. He rushed to his Master Guqi's house. The yard was full of people. All the direct disciples were there. Even Yuko, who hadn't been seen in a long time, was there. He said, "How is Master?" Xi and Jaloin said, "I don't know. They're in the backyard and won't let us in." Chi Meiyin said, "It's okay. Junior Marshal Uncle just went in." Lei Xingfeng said, "I'll go in and see." No one would stop Lei Xingfeng. His strength was ranked second in the hidden sect. Of course, this didn't include Gao Yi. Lei Xingfeng walked into the backyard. There was a temporary stone platform in the backyard. Gucci sat on it, his body flashing with light. Wu Yang stood not far away. Beside him was Tangya, who looked worried. Near the door was Feng Qinzong. The three strongest people of the hidden sect were all there, including Lei Xingfeng. All the masters of the hidden sect were present. Lei Xingfeng walked to Feng Qinzong's side. He whispered, "How is it?" Feng Qinzong shook his head. "I'm not sure yet." Wu Yang saw Lei Xingfeng come in and waved him over. Lei Xingfeng jogged to Wu Yang's side. He whispered, "Founder, how is Master?" He really cared about his master. If his master succeeded, the hidden sect would have another supermaster. For the hidden sect, it was definitely a good thing. Wu Yang said, "I can't tell yet. I've only been here for a while. Let's wait and see." Lei Xingfeng whispered, "The advancement this time seems different from before." He thought of the time when Feng Qinzong advanced. It was a complicated process and a large amount of materials were used. Now, his master only needed to meditate. The two were incomparable. Wu Yang said, "It is different. It used to be 100 times more complicated. Unfortunately, the advancement this time was too sudden. I didn't even have time to discuss it with your master." Lei Xingfeng said, "He probably got inspiration from the local cultivation method. If he succeeds, it will open up a new path for the other disciples." Wu Yang said, "Yes. As long as he succeeds, there will be countless benefits. I hope he succeeds." He was also unsure. After arriving here, everything started to spiral out of control. Fortunately, things were going in a good direction. If Gucci succeeded, there would be 3 heavenly monarchs in the family. If Gao Yi was included, there would be 4 heavenly monarchs. His strength would be unprecedentedly strong. He was also about to advance, but he was hesitating. If Gucci successfully advanced, he would be completely relieved. He could give a shot. Lei Xingfeng stared at Gucci. After a while, he said, "Is this another internal cultivation?" Wu Yang nodded. "Yes. This path should be much better than the one we took." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "We have too many levels," Wu Yang said. "That can't be helped. The lack of a cultivation method will eventually lead to this. A little progress is just a title. Otherwise, how can a cultivator have the determination to improve?" Lei Xingfeng sighed. "Cultivating to a high level is a matter of life and death. I hope this cultivation method will be able to help Master." Wu Yang said, "If your master can advance, or not advance, but reach the strength of a heavenly monarch, then it will prove that our initiative to migrate was worth it." Lei Xingfeng understood what his ancestor meant. If there were no bottlenecks, and he reached the strength of a heavenly monarch, then it would be much easier to increase his cultivation in the future. Wu Yang, Lei Xingfeng, Tangya, and Feng Qinzong sat cross-legged in 4 corners, waiting quietly. At this time, there was nothing they could do to help. They could only guard and not let anyone disturb them. After 10 days, Wu Yang remained motionless on the stone platform. However, the light on his body proved that he was still working hard. On this day, Gucci spat out his own seal. Then he started refining in a dazzling manner. Everyone knew that if you wanted to increase your cultivation base, you had to refine seals. The amount of materials needed to refine seals was terrifying. It was truly a sea of materials. The refining process took 3 days. Lei Xingfeng and the others were very attentive. Fortunately, they were all high-level cultivators. Even if they didn't eat or drink for 10 days, it wouldn't be a problem. Wu Yang came to Lei Xingfeng's side and whispered, "It should be the critical moment. I feel that your master's seal has changed. Soon, it will change from the outside to the inside. At this time, we must not disturb him. Inform little Feng to patrol outside. Also, be careful of your master's explosion. It may affect the surrounding environment. If that happens, we must work together to protect the camp. Lei Xingfeng nodded in agreement. He came to Feng Qinzong's side and whispered a few words. Feng Qinzong stood up and whispered, "Okay, I'll go patrol. You be careful." Tanya looked at Lei Xingfeng uneasily, but she didn't say anything. She turned her head and stared at her husband. Feng Qinzong walked outside. Lei Xingfeng returned to his original seat and sat down. He looked at Gucci uneasily because he felt that it had been too long since he advanced. Suddenly, Gucci let out a roar. The seal above his head fell down and sank straight into his head. In an instant, a huge shockwave surged out. The power of the shockwave was so great that it was terrifying. The stone platform he was sitting on instantly turned to dust. The circular shockwave spread out rapidly. Wu Yang shouted, "Block it!" Xian Feng stood up abruptly, and with a wave of his hand, a net of electricity flew out. The shockwave hit the net of electricity, creating a la-la-la sound as Xian Feng retreated backwards, crashing into the wall of the courtyard. The wall suddenly collapsed. Xian Feng continuously sent out a few electric nets to block the attack, finally stopping the force of the attack. Wu Yang also blocked the other side. Tanya was in a more difficult situation. She could only block a small area in front of her. The rest of the area that she didn't block couldn't stop the shockwave from spreading. In an instant, a large number of houses were destroyed. Fortunately, there were 3 people blocking the shockwave. Otherwise, the entire camp would have been destroyed. Gucci stood in the pile of dust, a little dazed. He looked at his feet, then looked around. Suddenly, a bright smile appeared on his face. He said, "I think I did it." Tanya jumped up and threw herself into Gucci's arms. She kept saying, "You scare me to death. You scare me to death. I thought you were going to explode." Gucci scratched Tanya's nose and laughed. "How can you say that? Would I explode? If I did, who would accompany you?" Tanya didn't choose her words carefully. She said, that's good. You scare me to death." Lei Xingfeng almost laughed out loud. He suddenly remembered Blackbird's catchphrase, "Scare me to death." It was pretty much the same as what Master's wife said. Wu Yang stepped forward. "Junior brother, congratulations." Gucci shook his head. "I think I'll call you Master." Wu Yang froze and couldn't help but laugh. He said, "A phone also affected you. All right, it doesn't matter what you call me. If you want to call me that, I don't care." Lei Xingfeng suddenly laughed. Gucci said, "What are you laughing at?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Feng Qinzong, doesn't that mean I have to call you Master again?" Hee. Wu Yang couldn't help but laugh. That's true. In fact, some hidden sects will follow this rule. Some hidden sects won't. It depends on the choice of their respective masters. Chapter 434. Feng Qinzong rushed in. Wu Yang asked, "Is there anyone injured outside?" Feng Qinzong shook his head. "The people around have already moved away. No one is nearby." Wu Yang nodded. "And that's good. Let them rebuild the destroyed house." The house in front of Gucci's house was still there. Because Wu Yang had blocked the shockwave, most of it was blocked. Tanya was very excited. Her husband had finally stepped into the ranks of the top masters. Of course, she was overjoyed. Wu Yang was overjoyed. His face was full of smiles. Ever since his master left with the majority of the sect, the hidden sect established by Gucci had never been as strong as it was today. The hidden sect now had 4 heavenly monarchs. Most importantly, he was about to advance. However, he wouldn't stay in the camp. Before, he was worried about the safety of the hidden sect and didn't dare to leave for long periods of time. Now, with Gucci, Lei Xingfeng, Gao Yi, and Feng Qinzong, the hidden sect's strength was enough to protect itself. Gucci said, "All right, no need to keep watch over me. Wait for me to consolidate my strength. There will be no problem." Wu Yang asked, "Do you have enough materials?" Gucci said, "Should be enough. If not, I will ask for more." Wu Yang laughed. "The richest person here should be a phone. If you need anything, you can ask him." He sold Lei Xingfeng out without any conscience. Lei Xingfeng laughed. "All right, since the founder personally sold me, I can only accept it. Master, what other materials do you need?" Let me see if we have any in stock. If not, I will go out and look for them. Gucci looked at Lei Xingfeng with gratification. What he was most proud of was having this disciple. Not only was he sensible, but he was also worry-free and extremely respectful to his elders. He said, "A Feng, Master didn't spend so many years in vain. The materials have long been collected. Even if there are some missing materials, they have already been changed. Master won't be coming out for the next few days. You have to be responsible for the matters of the camp." Lei Xingfeng agreed and left with Wu Yang and Feng Qinzong. Wu Yang said, "I'm relaxed." "Huh." Lei Xingfeng said, "Grandmaster, you're usually very relaxed too." Wu Yang shook his head slightly and said, "I've never been relaxed. One wrong choice can lead to death. How can I be relaxed when there are so many disciples?" This was the first time he had voiced his worries. Feng Qinzong said, "Master, we will do our best." Wu Yang nodded. After a while, he said, "Little Feng, you should call me Grandmaster from now on." Feng Qinzong looked at Lei Xingfeng and nodded. "Yes, Grandmaster." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "You can't blame me for this." Feng Qinzong also laughed. He said, "You're already a heavenly monarch. I was going to call you Martial Uncle, but now I'm the one who's taking advantage. Hee hee, little junior brother." Lei Xingfeng didn't care about this. He laughed. Little junior brother is favored. I don't want to be an elder. It's tiring and unrewarding. Feng Qinzong was dumbfounded. After a while, he said, "That's the reason?" Lei Xingfeng said, "What do you think?" Feng Qinzong was immediately defeated. All right, you're still the best." Wu Yang laughed. Lei Xingfeng said seriously, "Grandmaster, where did my little sister's sect go?" Wu Yang said, "I know the general direction, but I didn't go there. You want to find your little sister? You siblings are really close. Wait a few days and then go. I'll give you a map. It shouldn't be hard to find." As long as he had the exact location, Lei Xingfeng believed that he could find it. Lei Xingfeng said, "Thank you, Grandmaster. I'll come find you in a few days." He said goodbye and left. Back home, Lei Xingfeng immediately took Gao Yi back to the Mirror Realm. The house was still lively. Hong Chun, Yin, Jean Depang, Jing Zia, and an unfamiliar young woman were there. Lei Xingfeng looked at her curiously. "Who is this?" Everyone laughed. Hong Chun shook his head. "A Feng, you're too much of a boss. She's your disciple." Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. He pointed at his nose. When did I have a disciple?" The young woman's eyes reddened. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. Lei Xingfeng was also confused. Hong Chun sighed. "I've never seen anyone like you. You took her in from the Heavens Alliance. Her name is Han Jiao. Do you remember?" Jean Depang laughed. "A Feng isn't at home much. Not to mention a disciple. Even the guards at home aren't present." Everyone laughed. Lei Xingfeng thought back. It was the first time he went to Shattered Stone Plains with Xiangeluan. Later on, he went to the Heavens Alliance. At that time, he was only a third-ring sage. After so many years, he almost forgot. He looked at Han Jiao again and was shocked. "Eighth ring sage." Han Jiao went forward and bowed. "Master." Lei Xingfeng had already realized that Han Jiao should have relied on her own strength to level up. Her cultivation was higher than Jean Depang's. He couldn't help but say, "Fatty, if you continue to be so wasteful, are you going to rely on rings to cultivate?" Jean Depang was laughing happily, but after hearing this, he wanted to cry. "A Feng, you can't hurt me like this." Lei Xingfeng said, "Look at Han Jiao. When she came, she didn't know anything. She hadn't even started cultivating. You're already a master then. Look at her now. She's even stronger than you. You're too useless." Fortunately, Jean Dia wasn't here. Otherwise, he would have scolded him. Jean Depang said, Stop. "A Feng, if you keep talking, I won't have the face to live anymore." She suddenly said coldly, "You have a big face." Jean Depang touched his face and said, "Little Yin, I won't give you anything good next time." Han Jiao stared blankly at Lei Xingfeng. She didn't know what to do. Lei Xingfeng sighed. At first, he only wanted to take in an unnamed disciple. He didn't expect this girl to rely on her own efforts to improve so quickly. No wonder he never saw her. She must have been cultivating. He said, Okay, from now on, you're my first disciple. Immediately, Ishmael stepped forward and said, Congratulations. Everyone congratulated her. Han Jiao's face immediately turned red. This girl was very shy. Jean Depeng laughed and said, Uncle Fatty will cook good food for you in the future. This foodie always talked about food. Lei Xingfeng took out 2 gold-grade puppets and said, Master doesn't have any guards for you at the moment. As for the other attendants, Manager AI will assign them to you. These 2 gold-grade puppets will be your guards from now on. I'll change the settings of the puppets so that they'll follow your orders. Once she became his disciple, Han Jiao would be a direct descendant. This was an earth-shattering change in status. Han Jiao was dressed very plainly. Her face was delicate and pretty. Due to her cultivation, she looked very young, about 18 or 19 years old. Moreover, she was abnormally shy, blushing before she spoke. Lei Xingfeng wasn't very satisfied with this. He believed that people who were too shy would have problems fighting strength. However, he still gave someone who was so hard-working in cultivation a chance. Han Jiao didn't expect such a huge surprise. She blushed and said, Master. Lei Xingfeng said, Since you call me Master, we'll be family from now on. No need to be so polite. If you have any requests, just say it. Don't keep it in your stomach. Han Jiao's presence was very low. She lowered her head and said, Yes, Master. Then she took the initiative to stand behind Lei Xingfeng, looking like an obedient girl. Lei Xingfeng said, Gold-grade puppets, also known as strongmen. They're not bad. They'll be enough to protect you. Han Jiao said, Thank you, Master. Ishmael was busy. He had to arrange a new residence for Han Jiao. As Lei Xingfeng's eldest disciple, Han Jiao definitely had her own residence in the Mirror Realm. Moreover, her whole family had entered the Mirror Realm. In addition, he had to provide her with a batch of supplies, including all kinds of daily necessities, grains, and meat. In other words, Han Jiao's supplies were second only to Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi. In the Mirror Realm, her supplies were ranked third, even above Jean Dias. It could be said that she had reached the heavens in a single bound. Other than Han Jiao, the people who had been accepted together with Han Jiao were all ordinary. The highest was a true sage with 3 rings, so Lei Xingfeng naturally wouldn't accept her as a disciple. Han Jiao's potential wasn't very good, and she wasn't a cultivator with only 1 attribute. However, she worked very hard, and it was a miracle that she could reach her current cultivation level. This was why Lei Xingfeng was soft-hearted and accepted her as a disciple. He didn't know how much Han Jiao had suffered to cultivate to such a high level. Judging from Han Jiao's potential, it was normal for her to cultivate to 3 or 4 rings, but she had reached 8 rings. Lei Xingfeng's family didn't lack materials or supplies. As long as they worked hard, they wouldn't be stopped because of a lack of materials. However, how many people were very hardworking? Because their lives were too comfortable, many people's cultivation wasn't as good as before. The biggest example was Jean Depeng. This guy spent less time cultivating and more time eating. To be more precise, he spent the most time thinking about how to cook. It was normal that his cultivation couldn't improve. In fact, Lei Xingfeng had a strong sense of danger. This place was different from his hometown. Once they left the camp in outer space, it could be said that every step was dangerous. Traps and dangers were everywhere, and it wasn't obvious on the surface. By the time they reacted, it was often too late. If they weren't strong enough to back them up, anyone below the true monarch level could accidentally die. After going out a few times, Lei Xingfeng had a clear understanding of the situation. If they hadn't been strong enough, they would have suffered a great loss when they met Tang Gung last time. This wasn't a good place. If you weren't strong enough, don't go out. Therefore, everyone was forced to improve their strength. No one wanted to live in the camp forever. Jean Depeng brought out a few large pots of fresh fruit. They were all fruit trees transplanted in the Mirror Realm. A batch had recently ripened. Jean Depeng was in charge of them, so he brought them out for everyone to taste. Lei Xingfeng smiled. There are quite a lot of varieties. Most of these fruit trees were transplanted from the secret treasure space. They had been collected over many years and gradually accumulated. There were quite a lot of varieties. Jean Depeng said, There are only a few varieties. Most of them are still recovering. The transplanting time is still a bit short. They'll be fine in a year or two. He was self-taught. Fruit trees were natural desserts and good for making snacks. Just like candied fruits, they needed fruit to make them. Chapter 435. Everyone began to fight over the fruits. Lei Xingfeng also picked up a fist-sized fruit. He didn't know much about the fruits here. Compared to the fruits in his previous world, there were more varieties of fruits here, and the taste was sweeter. He didn't look at it carefully and just took a bite of the skin and flesh. A sweet fragrance spread in his mouth. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but say, "This fruit is not bad." Jean Depang looked and said, "This is Zili Z, a very good fruit." This was the first time Lei Xingfeng had heard of this name, but he didn't care. After eating one, he stopped eating and said, "During this period of time, I'll be going out. If there's anything, find a channel to deal with it." And Hong Chun and Yin can also help. Hong Chun and Yin nodded in agreement. They both knew that Lei Xingfeng was promoting his own people. Gao Yi asked, "A phone, where are you planning to go?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm going to find my little sister's camp. I only know the general direction and location, so I'll need time to search." Gao Yi said, "So it's like this. Okay, I'll go with you." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "And Jing Zia will stay in the camp. Jean Depang, you have the right to enter and leave. Bring a few people and stay in my house in the camp. As for whether you stay in the camp or not, that's up to you." Jean Depang agreed. Going through the secret door was very convenient. Although it would consume some energy crystals, Lei Xingfeng could still afford it. Lei Xingfeng hadn't been to Lei Xingfeng's camp before, so he couldn't go through the mirror world. He had to walk step by step. This was the only flaw of the mirror world. Just getting the coordinates was useless. Lei Xingfeng, the master, had to personally go and set the coordinates. It would be very convenient to go in the future, and other people with a right to control it could also enter. This continent could be said to be easy to travel, but it could also be said to be difficult to travel. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi had already been on the road for 8 days. They basically traveled during the day and returned to the mirror realm to sleep at night. They didn't feel that it was very tiring. The journey was very smooth. They didn't see a single person, nor did they see any powerful beasts. As Gao Yi walked, he said, "Sometimes this place is very strange. Sometimes you might not encounter any danger for a year, but once you do, it will give you a show of strength. I once didn't encounter any danger for 3 consecutive months, but when I was at my most relaxed, I almost fell into a trap." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What trap?" Gao Yi said, "Unknowingly, I walked into a forbidden area. What's worse is that I still didn't know, and just like that, I crashed into the restriction. Fortunately, I reacted quickly and didn't dare to continue charging, choosing instead to retreat. That time was very frightening. As soon as I retreated, the restriction activated at full force. One look, and I could tell that it was a strangulation restriction. I didn't even know if I could withstand it." Lei Xingfeng said, "That was because you were alone. If there was another person, it would be very difficult for such a dangerous situation to occur." Gao Yi smiled. That's right. I was thinking about something at the time and ignored the changes in my surroundings." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Sometimes, traveling alone is more dangerous." Gao Yi said, "That can't be helped. If you have a sect to rely on, who would be willing to travel alone?" Lei Xingfeng said, "If you're at the level of a Tao Lord, even if you're alone, it shouldn't be a problem." Gao Yi said, "Tao Lords are rarely alone. They always have a group of people behind them. Of course, they usually choose to travel alone outside, mainly because they can go to extremely dangerous places. If they bring someone with them, it'll be inconvenient." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle Gao, if you become a Tao Lord, are you confident?" Gao Yi said, "I wasn't confident in the past. However, after you helped me translate the Star Python record, I'm a little more confident. The only headache is that it's very difficult to gather materials. I don't know where to find some of the things recorded in the record." Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Gao, as long as you find the right place, I'll help you find it." Gao Yi immediately smiled. He said, When I was in the mirror world, I heard them say that you're a lucky guy. No material can stop you. As long as you find the materials, you won't return empty-handed. Lei Xingfeng scratched his head and said, that seems to be the case. Actually, he knew the reason very well. He just couldn't say it out loud. Of course, with his current strength, it wouldn't be a big deal even if he said it out loud. However, he had always been a cautious person, so he wouldn't say it if he could. Gao Yi said, when I heard them talk about it, I was a little confused. However, everyone said the same thing. This proves that you're very impressive and have a unique way of finding materials. Lei Xingfeng suddenly stood still. Gao Yi also stopped in his tracks. The two of them looked at each other. There were people here. However, neither Lei Xingfeng nor Gao Yi planned to avoid them. The two of them were heavenly monarchs. Unless they met a Dao monarch, they weren't afraid of anyone. To be honest, there were too few Dao monarchs. Even if they wanted to meet one, it would be very difficult. The two of them didn't avoid or hide. They just walked over. Masked men. Lei Xingfeng immediately saw that they were wearing masks. One of them ran over and quickly blocked their path. That person said, who are you? This is the mining area that we've occupied. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng didn't pay any attention to him. Instead, they raised their heads and looked into the distance. A large area of trees had been cut down, and the ground had been dug up. It was densely packed with people. Half of them were actually ordinary people, and the other half were cultivators wearing masks. With a rough estimate, there were at least 300 people. That person saw that Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi were ignoring him. He immediately became angry and shouted, hey, leave this place. Gao Yi sized him up a few times and said indifferently, didn't your sect tell you? In this land, it's better to be a bit more restrained. Otherwise, who knows what kind of disaster it will bring to your sect. Lei Xingfeng glanced at him. He knew very well that this was just a true monarch. He said, interesting. They actually brought so many people here. This cost is a bit high. That person had already sensed that something was wrong. These two people were too calm. They didn't even put him in their eyes. One had to know that he was a true monarch, not some 8th or 9th ring sage. In his sect, he had an extremely high status. Gao Yi said, you know this secret door? Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, I've killed many of their people in the past. That person immediately whistled when he heard that, and a few people quickly ran over. Gao Yi said, are their brains damaged? The unspoken rule here was that if one met 1 or 2 people who dared to charge in without dodging, they were all people with extraordinary strength. They had to be careful when facing such people. It was either they didn't meet anyone here, or they had to be extremely careful. There were many super experts here. It was a completely different concept from the continent in the past. The masked man had just arrived here. The camp had just been set up when he discovered a vein of ore. He immediately ordered his subordinates to mine it. Actually, this kind of ore wasn't considered precious. However, in the eyes of the masked man, this was an extremely good ore. They had never been to outer space before and were dazzled by the resources here. The 3 people came over. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi both laughed. Lei Xingfeng said, no wonder the masked man is so arrogant. There are 4 true monarchs in total. One of them is even a peak true monarch. Gao Yi nodded and said, yes, there are no heaven monarch experts. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, even if there is a heaven monarch expert, there is no chance. He still had Jingzia and a battle puppet. Even if there was a heaven monarch, he wouldn't be a match for them. The two of them calmly looked at the 3 people who were flying over. For true monarchs, one of them was a peak true monarch. This strength was actually not small. 4 true monarchs could definitely deal with a heaven monarch. Of course, it couldn't be a peak heaven monarch. Gao Yi stepped forward and said, don't you know the rules here? You must be new. The 4 masked men surrounded them. It was no wonder that they were so confident. For true monarchs were considered quite strong in a secret sect. However, on this continent, it was indeed not enough. The peak true monarch said, this is the place we occupied. He vaguely felt that something was wrong because he couldn't see through the two's cultivation. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng stood still and just watched quietly. Among the 4 true monarchs, One of them obviously couldn't bear it. He stepped forward and shouted, "Get lost!" Gao Yi sighed and said, "A Feng, are they enemies?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Kind of. When I was young, I was chased by them. Of course, I also killed many of their people. However, I didn't know that they were from a secret sect. Well, I guess they were part of their peripheral organization." Gao Yi said, "Since they are enemies, then it doesn't matter. Let's do it." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay, let's do it then." The indifferent attitude of the two infuriated the four true monarchs. However, in the blink of an eye, the four of them were horrified. An enormous power erupted from the two, suppressing them in an instant. The masked man in the lead exclaimed, "Heaven Monarch, Realm Experts, run!" The four of them quickly retreated. They didn't dare to fight at all. They weren't stupid. If there was only one Heaven Monarch, they might be able to deal with it. However, there were two Heaven Monarchs. If they foolishly rushed forward, they would be courting death. A low-level cultivator would be at a disadvantage in a battle between two Heaven Monarchs. Once a true monarch escaped, it wasn't easy to catch up. Especially with the secret sect in their bodies, it was even easier to escape. Lei Xingfeng was also dumbfounded. He didn't know which one to chase. The four of them escaped in different directions. If Lei Xingfeng hesitated for a moment, it would be very difficult for him to catch up. Gao Yu was also a little stunned. The other party ran too quickly. The two of them were just about to fight when the four of them escaped. He laughed involuntarily and said, "What is this?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Their reaction is very fast." Gao Yi said, "Yes, this secret sect is very cruel." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Why? Is it because they didn't fight with us?" Gao Yi said, "You see, the four of them don't even care about their subordinates. Those who stay behind." Lei Xingfeng immediately understood. He nodded and said, I see. If we wanted to kill them, their subordinates wouldn't be able to live." In other words, the four of them escaped. They didn't care about the lives of their subordinates at all. Gao Yi said, "Yes, that's what I meant. This secret sect is very cruel." Chapter 436. Lei Xingfeng originally wanted to fight with them and see how many monarchs he could take on, but now he had no interest. He said, "Let's go. It's bad luck to join a secret sect like this." Gao Yi said, "I've seen a lot. Your secret sect isn't bad." Lei Xingfeng said, "What do you mean This is our secret sect. Our secret sect definitely wouldn't be like this. If it was as cold as this, I would have left long ago." Gao Yi said, "Yes, as long as you have the ability, you'll definitely leave such a cold secret sect." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go." Gao Yi said, "What about those people? Kill them?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "They're not a threat. There's no need to kill them. Let's leave this place." As long as they weren't a threat, he didn't have the intention to kill them all. It was meaningless. Gao Yi nodded. "Okay, let's go." He had no interest in killing the weak. For an expert, they at least had their own dignity. Killing the weak would never add a shred of glory to themselves. Of course, there were bastards and beasts among the experts. There were also many who willfully killed the innocent. There were no laws in this world. The two of them swaggered forward, directly passing through the other party's crowd and heading into the distance. They didn't pay any attention to those who were in a frenzy. About 10 days later, Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi saw a mountain range in front of them. This mountain range was very majestic. From the foot of the mountain to the top, 1/3 of the mountain range was covered in snow. Gao Yi said, "There's actually a snow mountain. I've lived here for so many years, but this is the first time I've seen such a spectacular snow mountain." "Ha, good. He was an ice cultivator, so of course he felt a sense of familiarity when he saw the snow mountain. It was just like how Lei Xingfeng felt a sense of familiarity when he saw the lightning and thunder. Lei Xingfeng said, "The direction should be correct. Then we have to pass through this mountain range. I hope there's no great forbidden area here, or else it'll be really hard to walk." Gao Yi stared at the snow mountain for a while. He sighed and said, "There really might be a great forbidden area. It depends on whether the environment inside is bad or not." Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. If it's bad, then there's no forbidden area? Gao Yi immediately laughed and said, You just said the opposite. Lei Xingfeng was also surprised and said, Ah, could it be that because of the harsh environment, there is a forbidden area? Gao Yi said, Is the magnetic storm mountain range's environment harsh? People like me don't even dare to get close, but you know very well what's in the magnetic storm mountain range. Lei Xingfeng said, It was formed by a powerful restriction. Gao Yi said, Without innate conditions, how can you use restrictions? Magnetic storm mountain range. The power of restrictions is at most 10%. The rest is natural power. Therefore, the worse the environment, the more useful it is. For cultivators, if they can use the power of the environment, a bad environment is actually a good place. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but agree. It was indeed so. He still had the thoughts left over from his previous life. The so-called thoughts of ordinary people often interfered with the thoughts of this life. According to the rules of the current world, many of the thoughts and ideas of his previous life were wrong. Gao Yi said, You don't know, but I've looked for snow mountains or extremely cold places many times. Unfortunately, I didn't find it even once. I didn't expect to find it this time. Lei Xingfeng deeply understood. Back then, in order to find the thunderstorm mountain range, he had run to who knows how many places. The most hateful thing was that he seemed to have found it. He could even hear the sound of thunder in the distance, but when he rushed over, it had disappeared and he couldn't find anything. Lei Xingfeng said, Okay, let's go in and take a look. Since they couldn't fly, they could only fly close to the ground. They couldn't increase their speed because they couldn't fly close to the ground. If they were careless, they might crash into something. Many times, if the ground was flat, they would rather run than fly close to the ground. Jumping and flying, the two of them quickly arrived at the foot of the mountain. It was still a dense forest. The two of them walked along the foot of the mountain and gradually felt the unique cold air of the mountain. As the terrain rose, the dense forest became short shrubs. Soon, the two of them stepped onto the snow line. Gao Yi casually squashed a pouncing leopard and laughed. It's still very safe here. He raised his hand and was about to throw away the leopard with black spots. Lei Xingfeng said, Give it to me. Gao Yi said, What do you want this thing for? Meat doesn't taste good. Lei Xingfeng said, I want the skin. This skin is thick and soft. The color is also not bad. As he spoke, he put the leopard into his hidden Luin space. Gao Yi said, You even want this? I don't know how many I threw away back then. The two laughed as they climbed up. Gradually, Lei Xingfeng felt colder and colder, while Gao Yi became more and more energetic. Lei Xingfeng said, Why is it so cold? Gao Yi said, This isn't cold. Last time you said that place was extremely cold. And what was it called again? Lei Xingfeng said, Hanya Castle. Gao Yi said, Yes, Hanya Castle. How is it compared to here? Lei Xingfeng immediately laughed. It can't be compared. Hanya Castle is a place that can freeze a monarch to death. The two can't be compared. Gao Yi's eyes revealed a trace of yearning. This place was definitely a treasure for ice cultivators like him. He said, I hope we can go there. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, It is very convenient. When we have time, we can go back to the secret hidden space and go there directly. The secret door of the secret hidden space can be reached directly. In the future, we don't need the secret hidden space. We can go through the mirror world. Gao Yi nodded. It was fine as long as they could go. He wasn't in a hurry now. Perhaps it would be better to go after he cultivated to the peak stage of Heaven Monarch. He was still lacking a little. After crossing a mountain ridge, the two could fly close to the ground. Therefore, the accumulated snow couldn't slow down their speed. After entering the mountains, it got colder. Soon, they arrived at an ice valley. This ice valley had countless huge ice. A portion of it had melted, while a portion was still standing. Therefore, it formed a maze-like terrain. Fortunately, the two didn't need to walk in the cracks of the ice. Therefore, they wouldn't get lost. They directly jumped and walked on the protruding ice crown. With jumping and flying, the two quickly skimmed through the ice valley. This ice valley was rather long and was at least a few dozen kilometers. Just as Gao Yi was advancing rapidly, the surrounding cold air was getting colder. Gao Yi didn't feel it and just felt abnormally comfortable. However, Lei Xingfeng was different. He even activated the thousand-leaf silver's defense to resist the invading cold air. Lei Xingfeng said, "This isn't right. This temperature isn't right." Gao Yi just soared up and landed on a giant ice crown. In an instant, a white light suddenly appeared and shot towards Gao Yi. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Be careful." Gao Yi's body suddenly sank. He didn't land on the ice crown, but directly fell into the cracks of the ice. Lei Xingfeng followed and jumped down. The white light pierced through and hit a towering ice pillar. In the blink of an eye, the ice pillar collapsed. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng landed in the cracks of the ice. The two of them looked at each other. Gao Yi said, "Forbidden ground." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "It should be a forbidden ground. However, I don't know if it's a big one or a small one." Gao Yi said, "That's hard to say. We should be at the edge of the forbidden ground and surrounded by restrictions." Lei Xingfeng said, "Should we go around it?" Gao Yi was a little hesitant. He said, "This forbidden ground. This is the first time I've seen it. Should we explore it?" Generally speaking, forbidden grounds that can survive until now are very precious, especially ones that still have remnants of offensive restrictions. This also means that the restrictions here are relatively complete. There will be very few cultivators who can enter. Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, I'll leave the coordinates of this place. Let's go around it first. When I find my sister, we'll explore it again." Gao Yi said, "That's fine. Let's go around it." The two of them no longer dared to jump and fly randomly. They obediently retreated through the cracks in the ice. One time, because he couldn't determine the direction, Gao Yi even flew up to the top of the ice. He only took a glance before he was forced back down by a beam of white light. He said, "We've been targeted. Fortunately, I saw the right direction and went this way." They had no choice but to leave the ice valley. The two of them returned to the beginning of the ice valley and started to check the terrain again. They were surrounded by giant snow peaks. The two of them went to the back of a snow mountain before they dared to climb up. They slowly arrived at the top of the snow peak. The biting cold wind was howling. Lei Xingfeng had no choice but to expand the thousand leaves silver's defense. Tiny electric arcs jumped on his body and quickly dispersed the cold. He said, "This cold, if I was still a ninth ring sage, I probably wouldn't be able to withstand it." Gao Yi said, "Yes, this wind is a little strange. It has an extremely cold taste. It's so comfortable." His face was a little pale, but it was obvious that he was enjoying it. Gao Yi sighed. "If we found this place earlier, I would probably be a peak heavenly monarch. What a pity." Lei Xingfeng said, "A world with compatible attributes is a cultivator's paradise. However, it's too hard to find." Gao Yi said, "I want to set up a coordinate here. This will be a point for cultivation in the future. Yes, if I have time, I will continue to find a more suitable place for cultivation." Lei Xingfeng nodded. Gao Yi quickly returned to the mirror realm and came back in about 10 minutes. He smiled and said, "It's done. This might be one of my cultivation spots in the future." The two of them laughed as they rushed down the mountain. To them, going up and down the mountain was easy. There wasn't much difference in speed. Soon, the two of them arrived at the foot of the mountain. Gao Yi said, "We can't keep going. Otherwise, we'll bump into the forbidden area again. If we follow this canyon, we might be able to go around it." Lei Xingfeng said, "This is a world of ice and snow. There aren't any plants here. It's also abnormally cold. No one will come here." Gao Yi smiled. "That's hard to say. The weirder a place is, the more cultivators want to go there." Lei Xingfeng said, "Other than the cold, there's nothing else here." Gao Yi suddenly pulled Lei Xingfeng and said, "You're wrong." Boom, boom, boom. The entire canyon began to shake violently. Lei Xingfeng's heart tightened. He said, "Avalanche?" In fact, he wasn't afraid of an avalanche because he could fly. Even if an avalanche came down, it wouldn't be a threat to the two of them. Gao Yi said, "No, it's not an avalanche." The terrain here was rather strange. The ground was made of an unknown thickness of ice. Occasionally, one could see a few cracks. They were basically bottomless. On both sides were cliffs made of blue ice. The snow on the ground couldn't be preserved. It was all swept away by the wind. There was only snow in the small cracks. Of course, there wasn't much snow in the big cracks. Chapter 437. Crack, crack, crack. After the rumbling, the ice cliffs on both sides cracked. Lei Xingfeng said, "What is that?" Gao Yi said seriously, "If I'm not wrong, that should be an ice beast puppet. I've heard people talk about it before, but they didn't elaborate. I've been looking for ice beast puppets, which means that this is a forbidden area for ice element cultivators." Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly. We still ended up in the forbidden area? Although Gao Yu was old, he still had a mouth full of white teeth. He grinned, and his white teeth flashed under the reflection of the ice. It was absolutely dazzling. That's right, we should be in the outer area, and we encountered an ice beast puppet that was lying in ambush. Hee hee, our luck is not bad. If we don't kill it, it will be hard to escape. Lei Xingfeng said, "That's not necessarily true. We can return to the mirror realm." Gao Yi said, "Why don't you try and see if you can return?" Lei Xingfeng looked at the falling ice cliffs and said, "Yes, this is just the outer area. Let me try." His body gradually became transparent, then solidified, and then became transparent again. After a full 10 seconds, he disappeared. Soon, Lei Xingfeng returned. He frowned. The return speed is extremely slow. As long as we have time, we can still return. What's going on? Gao Yi said, "Very simple. Even if you want to escape under the suppression of the restriction, you will need to spend time. This is the most dangerous time, so you need someone to cover you." Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "Cover? In the forbidden area, whoever covers will die. Oh, luckily I still have my Iron Beast puppets." He had a bunch of Iron Beast puppets, silver and gold. Of course, he also had powerful puppets like Jing Zia. Of course, he wouldn't use Jing Zia unless he had no other choice. The price would be too high. Gao Yi said, "Yes, this is a good idea. With something to cover you, the chances of escaping are high." This time, the two of them didn't plan on running because they were both interested in the Ice Beast puppet and wanted to see it for themselves. The two of them were skilled and daring, so they didn't mind the appearance of the Ice Beast puppet. Of course, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to release the others. He only summoned Jing Zia and asked, "Jing Zia, have you seen the Ice Beast before?" Jing Zia was a little confused. "What Ice Beast puppet?" Then she saw the Ice Beast puppets that had broken free from the ice cliff. She couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "You guys actually ran to Le Peak?" As she spoke, she looked around and said, "The outer perimeter." Lei Xingfeng scratched his head. Jing Zia did not seem to understand the situation. He said, "If you know the weakness of the Ice Beast puppet, tell us." Jing Zia said, "There is nothing powerful in the periphery. They are all low-level Ice Beast puppets. They are no threat to you." Lei Xingfeng stared into the distance and said, "If there are a lot of them," Gao Yi said, "Isn't this number a little scary?" The ice surface was densely packed with Ice Beast puppets. The Ice Beast puppets were completely different from the strongman. They were not humanoid puppets, but completely beast-like. There were 3 types of them. One was a wolf, one was a bear, and one was a crocodile with a long tail and a long mouth. The largest one was the bear form, while the smallest was the wolf form. Even the wolf form was 4 meters long. Xi and Feng had never seen such a large wolf before. Its entire body was made of white ice, and when it ran, it made kacha sounds as if it was a rusty machine. As it ran, the kacha sounds became smaller, and its jerky movements became smoother. Hundreds of Ice Beast dolls charging over at the same time was quite frightening. Of course, these were not humans, but Ice Beast dolls made of solid ice. The feeling of charging over at the same time was even more frightening. Jing Zia said, "Don't get surrounded by them. Also, don't fly. It's best to release some steel beast puppets and large spiders to form a natural barrier." It was a very calm suggestion. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay." He immediately released a few hundred steel beast puppets and a dozen large spiders to form a defensive line. Lei Xingfeng said, "Come on, Uncle Gao. Let's move around a bit. It's too cold here. It might be a good idea to fight." Gao Yi laughed and said, "Then let's do it." He took a few steps forward and came behind the steel beast puppets. Lei Xingfeng said, "Jing Zia, you command the steel beast puppets. Jingzia nodded and said, don't worry. I will try my best to reduce the losses. In fact, Lei Xingfeng did not understand how Jingzia naturally took over the command. Jingzia's command was much better than his. Moreover, she commanded without any connection. Lei Xingfeng was very relieved. As for the doubts, he did not care at all. In any case, as long as Jingzia was on his side, it was fine. At first, the ice beast puppets were very slow, but gradually, they became faster and faster. Lei Xingfeng's 1,000 leaves silver defense suddenly emitted a dazzling brilliance. He activated the defense with all his strength, and then went to the front. Gao Yi laughed bitterly and followed. Lei Xingfeng's hand held a huge, illusory ghost-head broadsword and said, Uncle Gao, you left. I'll go right. Gao Yi said, good. It's been a long time since we fought in the forbidden area. Ha ha. Finally, I have a companion. He stared at the ice beast puppets that were flying over and let out a strange cry. Lei Xingfeng could not wait any longer. He raised the ghost head broadsword in his hand and also let out a roar and directly rushed out. The ice beast puppets were less than 200 meters away from the two of them. They could clearly see the ice shards on the ice beast puppets. Lei Xingfeng rushed forward, and in a few breaths' time, he collided with the fastest ice beast puppet, the wolf ice beast puppet. In an instant, the illusory ghost head broadsword was raised. The ghost head broadsword was originally about 2 meters long, but at this moment, it suddenly grew to 5 meters. It no longer looked like a ghost head broadsword, but more like a door plank. The broadsword slashed down. The violent sound of thunder suddenly exploded, as if a bolt of lightning had struck down. A silver-white light exploded, causing countless ice crystals to scatter in all directions. With a single slash, he shattered 6 wolf-shaped ice beasts. Following that, Exine foam slashed horizontally. The speed of these 2 slashes was incomparably fast. The second slash was even more powerful. With the sound of thunder, a few more wolf-shaped ice beasts were shattered. In an instant, Exine Fong had cleared the ice beasts in front of him, but there were simply too many of them, and as soon as he cleared them, the ice beasts in front of him were filled with ice beasts that were madly charging at him. Lei Xingfeng crazily waved the ghost head broadsword and slashed everywhere. The sound of thunder was like the sound of a drum. As Lei Xingfeng had released a large number of steel puppets, the ice beast puppets didn't bother Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi. Instead, they rushed over and went straight for the steel puppets and the giant metal spiders. This gave the duo a great opportunity and reduced the pressure. There were too many of them, and Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi both felt a headache. They couldn't kill enough of them. Gao Yi's ice attribute attack was slightly inferior to Lei Xingfeng. Fortunately, he was a high-stage heaven monarch, and his attack power was different. Even if the ice beast puppets were immune to most ice attribute attacks, they still couldn't withstand his attacks and were shattered one after another. At this moment, Lei Xingfeng had already killed all the wolf ice beast puppets. From afar, the crocodile-shaped ice beast puppets were gradually approaching. They were crawling over densely on the ground, and it caused Lei Xingfeng's scalp to go numb. He roared, and an illusory thunder hand rose up. It rapidly expanded from 1 meter to 10 meters, and this was already his full strength. Boom! The thunder hand immediately slammed down. An icy mist surged, and countless ice crystals flew up. Among them were bodies formed from ice crystals and severed limbs. There was another angry roar as the giant hand swept over. Bang! 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 The crocodile-shaped ice beast puppets were sent tumbling. Gao Yi also released his giant ice hand and slammed it randomly. There was a series of cracking sounds, and soon, the duo rushed into the crocodile-shaped ice beast puppets and fought crazily again. In less than a minute, the duo killed their way out of the ice beast puppets again. Lei Xingfeng said, "These things aren't powerful, but there are too many of them. It is very annoying." Gao Yi said, "This is using numbers to delay the enemy. Fortunately, there isn't anyone in the forbidden ground. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome." Lei Xingfeng said, There are bear-shaped ice beast puppets at the back. These things don't seem to be good at fighting. The bear-shaped ice beast puppets were more than 4 meters tall. They looked like moving blocks of ice. Their bodies were blue, and they walked very clumsily. There were about 30 of them. Although there were only 30 of them, their aura was more powerful than the previous 2 groups of ice beast puppets. Their large ice crystal feet stepped on the ice, creating loud tremors. Gao Yi said, "We have to kill them. Otherwise, they won't let us go." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's kill them." He raised his sword and rushed forward. Gao Yi said, "All right, let's kill them." Because the bear-shaped ice beast puppets were relatively slow, the 2 of them had the idea of roaming around. Jing Zia commanded the steel puppets to fight against the large metal spiders. It was obvious that the steel puppets were inferior to the large metal spiders. This was especially true for the ice-type ice beast puppets. They were incomparably cold, causing the steel puppets and the large metal spiders to be much slower. At this moment, Lei Xingfeng was facing a large bear-shaped ice beast puppet. With a thunderous sound, he slashed down with his sword. The defense of the bear-shaped ice beast puppet was higher than that of the wolf-shaped ice beast puppet. Lei Xingfeng's sword didn't shatter it. Instead, it shattered one of the bear-shaped ice beast puppet's shoulders. However, this didn't cause it to lose its ability to move. The ice beast puppet suddenly pounced. Lei Xingfeng quickly retreated. His speed was as fast as lightning, and he slashed down with his sword again. With a loud boom, the ice beast puppet's large bear head exploded. Following the shattering of the ice beast puppet, a large amount of cold air rose. A layer of white cold mist slowly spread out. This bone-chilling cold forced Lei Xingfeng to strengthen his defense. Thousand Leaf Silver's phantom image was filled with crackling electric arcs. The scorching heat quickly drove away the cold air. Lei Xingfeng's body was covered in layers of white mist. He was like boiling water. After coming into contact with the cold air, he even let out a slight, sizzling sound. Gao Yi had already changed his battle strategy. Layers of cold air floated around his body, but this cold air was even colder and more tyrannical. As long as he got close to the bear-shaped ice beast doll, the moment the cold air touched the ice beast doll, it would actually cause the ice beast doll's movements to become sluggish. Then, with a light slap, Gao Yi would shatter the ice beast doll. His speed was extremely fast, even faster than Xian Foam. When Lei Xingfeng broke through the encirclement, Gao Yi was already calmly watching the show. Chapter 438. Lei Xingfeng panted and said, "Uncle Gao, we still have to kill our way back." Gao Yi said, "Just take Jing Zia back. As for those steel dolls, they should be pretty much dead by now." Lei Xingfeng thought about it and agreed. There is almost no benefit to fighting with the ice dolls. Through the mirror realm, as long as there were people on his side, Lei Xingfeng could control them. Therefore, he took Jing Zia into the mirror realm. As for the steel dolls and metal spiders, there were not many left. He gave them up without hesitation and left them to attract the ice dolls. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng immediately ran along the ice canyon, shaking off the ice dolls. The road ahead was smooth. They couldn't fly here, so Gao Yi said, "Don't look at the sides. There are definitely restrictions there. We can only go forward. This is the scary part of the forbidden area. It's hard to go back. Fortunately, you have the mirror realm. Once you enter a desperate situation, you can easily retreat." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to run around like this." The ice canyon was very long. Fortunately, there were no more ice dolls. The 2 ran for about 20 minutes and reached the other end of the canyon. They turned a corner and reached the bottom of the canyon. Lei Xingfeng stopped and stared blankly ahead. Gao Yi also had a shocked expression. The Palace of Ice. The palace was completely made of ice. It was over 100 meters tall and was stacked on top of each other. There was a faint layer of fog that made the entire ice palace appear and disappear. The whistling sound of the wind drifted around the ice palace, making waves of whimpering sounds. It gave people a feeling of extreme desolation. After a while, Lei Xingfeng said, "There's no trace of a human's aura. It's like an ice tombstone." Gallia's face was full of shock and ecstasy. He muttered to himself, I thought we were in the periphery. We're actually in the core area of the Forbidden Area. The two of them were about 700 meters away from the Ice Palace. In front of the Ice Palace was a blue ice surface with wisps of mist rising from it. From time to time, a gust of wind would blow past and instantly sweep away the rising ice mist. Lei Xingfeng pointed at the flat and wide ice surface and said, This could be a trap? Gao Yi shook his head. I don't know, but you should have a way to probe. Lei Xingfeng nodded. He raised his hand and released 2 steel puppet beasts. Let's step back and see what we will encounter. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng quickly retreated to the bend in the canyon. Only then did Lei Xingfeng command the steel doll beast to move forward. The 2 steel mannequins stepped forward, their heavy metal feet stepping on the ice, producing dull sounds. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi hid in a corner, watching the steel mannequins go deeper and deeper. Lei Xingfeng said, Uncle Gao, what do you think will happen? Gao Yi shook his head. I really can't guess. The Forbidden Area is dangerous. There are all kinds of strange things. It's simply unimaginable. When the 2 steel mannequins had walked a third of the distance, the whistling of the wind suddenly became louder. That sharp whistling sound forced Lei Xingfeng to use the 1,000-leaf silver to protect his ears. The extremely heavy steel mannequins trembled in the wind. It could be seen that the steel mannequins' pace had clearly slowed down. Lei Xingfeng thought for a while. What a strong wind. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to stand. Gao Yi said, You can resist it, but it will be very difficult. Look at the steel mannequins. Look at their bodies. A layer of ice crystals condensed on the steel mannequins' bodies. The condensed ice was quickly blown away. Then it froze again and was blown away again. The steel mannequins' originally dark bodies had a layer of metal polished off. As they moved forward with difficulty, they actually started to shine. Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. He never knew that the wind could be as sharp as a knife. It could forcibly cut off a layer of metal. Gao Yi laughed bitterly and said, What a perverted wind. I don't even know if I can withstand it. Lei Xingfeng said, We should be able to withstand it. If it's just the wind, we can withstand it. But I think it's not just the wind. Ding, ding, concentrated clinking sounds rang out. Gao Yi said, You were right. It's not just the wind. There are also ice crystals in the wind. The finger-sized ice crystals came with the wind. For some unknown reason, the ice crystals in the wind actually shot towards the steel mannequins. At a distance of more than 10 meters, the 2 steel mannequins' bodies seemed to be inlaid with countless diamonds. Under the reflection of the ice, specks of light shone. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. It could actually shoot directly into steel. This strength was too terrifying. Lei Xingfeng thought of the magnetic storm mountain range. The perverted lightning and thunder were simply terrifying to the extreme. Gao Yi said, It's fine. This is actually easier to withstand. The more difficult thing to withstand is the extreme cold brought by the wind. It's still fine for me, but it's hard for you to withstand it. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, Yeah, it's hard for me to withstand the extreme cold brought by the wind. Gao Yi said, I think, as long as any one of us goes over, it means that the others can go over as well. Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and immediately understood Gao Yi's meaning. He said, Use the mirror world. Gao Yi laughed and said, That's right. Use the mirror world. No matter if it's you or me, we can use the mirror world to cross over. The 2 steel mannequins were still struggling to walk forward. The originally sturdy and heavy steel mannequins had become much thinner. One of them couldn't move its arms at all, and its body was abnormally stiff. It walked very mechanically, but its speed was already extremely slow. It took a while before it could take a step. The other one was slightly better, but that was only because its companion was blocking it. With great difficulty, the 2 steel mannequins finally reached the center, and a shocking scene appeared. A palm-sized ice blade appeared along with the wind and quickly merged into a gust of wind, fiercely slashing towards the 2 steel mannequins. In the extreme cold, anything would become hard, but at the same time, it would become brittle. When these ice blades whistled along with the wind and gathered to slash at the two steel mannequins, the moment the dense sound of impact could be heard, Lei Xingfeng bitterly smiled and said, "It's over." Gao Yi said, "Yeah, we can't block it anymore." Boom, boom. Two crisp sounds rang out, and the steel mannequins were instantly shattered. In less than 10 seconds, the steel fragments that fell on the ice were swept away by the wind. The entire ice surface was immediately clean, and no traces could be seen at all. The strangest thing was that the gust of wind suddenly stopped, and the entire ice surface calmed down. Lei Xingfeng said after a while, "Damn it, fierce." Gao Yi said, "With the strength of a true monarch, it might not be possible, but I believe that with the strength of a heavenly monarch, it's definitely possible. I'll try, you wait." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's try again. I'll use a silver mannequin to try." Gao Yi said, "It's no use. The attacks from behind will only get stronger, and the mannequins won't have the ability to adapt." Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment, then took out a huge steel shield and said, "Use this. If something goes wrong, immediately return to the mirror world. We don't have to risk our lives." Gao Yi took the shield. This shield was the steel mannequin's weapon. It was as thick as 2 fingers and could completely cover Gao Yi, blocking the ice crystals and ice blades that appeared just now. As for what they would encounter later, they could only adapt according to the situation. Lei Xingfeng said, "Be careful." The reason why he didn't insist on going himself was because he didn't have the confidence to resist the cold. Gao Yi was an ice elemental and had a natural immunity to the cold. He shouldn't be frozen stiff. Gao Yi held the shield and walked over step by step. Miraculously, when Gao Yi had walked a third of the way, the wind began to blow violently, producing whistling sounds. Gao Yi's entire body was enveloped in a white brilliance, and a layer of ice had formed on the shield in his hand. He walked rather easily, much more easily than the steel mannequin. Soon, Gao Yi began to taste the ice crystals. Following the violent wind, the ice crystals were like bullets, madly shooting at him. Ding, ding, ding sounds could be heard incessantly. Lei Xingfeng watched nervously. He saw that the huge shield seemed to be embedded with a layer of diamond crystals. Gao Yi suddenly shook his arm, and the layer of ice on the surface and the ice crystals that were shot at him shattered and fell. Immediately after, another layer of ice appeared. This wasn't ice brought about by the environment, but ice that Gao Yi had specially condensed on the surface of the shield to strengthen the shield's defense. Gao Yi continued to walk forward with ease. From this point, it could be seen that Gao Yi's strength was rather strong. The wind and ice blades converged into a stream and crashed over with a loud bang. The layer of ice on the shield was instantly swept away, but Gao Yi didn't care. He continued to walk forward quickly. That enormous cold was simply unable to shake his footsteps. He watched as the shield became brighter and brighter. When the ice blades hit the shield, the entire shield was already dented and uneven. Gao Yi raised his hand and threw out the smashed shield. In an instant, the stream of ice blades converged on his defense. With a low roar, Gao Yi's body emitted a dazzling white light. When a stream of ice blades hit his defense, they actually disappeared without a sound. The most peculiar thing was that when the stream of ice blades disappeared into the white light, the violent wind suddenly stopped. It was as if Gao Yi didn't exist at all. Lei Xingfeng watched as Gao Yi walked step by step across the plaza. Suddenly, Lei Xingfeng understood in his heart. This was because he recalled his experience in the magnetic storm mountain range. Thunder attribute cultivators were like fish in water in the magnetic storm mountain range. In that case, Gao Yi, an ice attribute cultivator, also had a great advantage here. Would he be recognized as one of their own? When Gao Yi reached the entrance of the ice palace, that strange violent wind didn't appear again. Furthermore, there were no other attacks. Lei Xingfeng immediately confirmed that Gao Yi was considered one of their own by the Forbidden Land. One of the ice palace's doors had already collapsed. Gao Yi turned his head and made a hand gesture, indicating for Lei Xingfeng to wait for a moment. He directly stepped into the ice palace. After a moment, Gao Yi had already reached Lei Xingfeng's side through the realm of mirrors. He said, "All right, if you go through the realm of mirrors, I reckon that you won't be able to pass through this plaza. Other than the people of the Forbidden Land, I reckon that it will be very difficult for anyone to pass through this plaza, unless you're strong enough to withstand the attacks of the entire restriction." Lei Xingfeng stood at the entrance and waited. After a moment, he heard Gao Ye's voice. "Come in. There's nothing here." After stepping through the collapsed ice palace's doors, Lei Xingfeng raised his head and looked up. The roof of the ice palace had long since shattered. From the ground, he could see through the collapsed roof and see the towering ice cliff. Lei Xingfeng said, "The House of Ice." Chapter 439. Gao Yi said, "That's not pure ice." Lei Xingfeng said, "Not pure ice? Then what is it?" Gao Yi said, "It's been refined. It has some properties of ice, but it won't melt even under the sun. It's also much tougher than ice." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "How do you know that?" Gao Yi patted his head and said, "After all, I'm of the ice attribute. I just need to touch it with my hands to know that it's definitely not ice. I also know clearly how to use it." Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, this is your benefit." The two of them walked inside while talking and laughing. As soon as they passed through a corridor, they saw a 3-meter-tall ice sculpture. It looked like an ice sculpture, but they knew it wasn't made of ice. The two of them didn't pay much attention to it. They planned to go around the ice sculpture and continue moving forward. When they were less than 10 meters away from the ice sculpture suddenly moved. "Kacha, kacha, 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 kacha." Ice dolls. The two of them quickly retreated. The ice dolls here and the ice beast dolls were two completely different concepts. The ice beast dolls weren't much of a threat, but the ice dolls were. After such a long time of exploration, the two of them knew that the ice dolls and ice dolls from the Forbidden Area were different. The ice dolls and ice dolls were generally used for battle or similar to human dolls. The ice dolls were more advanced and had stronger combat power. As for intelligent dolls like Jingzia, they were very rare. Even in the Forbidden Area, people like her were relatively rare. The ice doll walked down from the pedestal, making cracking sounds. It stared at Gao Yi. After a while, it said, "Are you a lord from the palace?" Gao Yi said, "Yes." He would be a fool to say no. The ice doll said, "My lord, please give me your orders." Gao Yi said indifferently, "Follow me from now on." The ice doll said, "Yes, my lord." Lei Xingfeng's mouth was wide open. After a while, he said, "What the F***CK, this works too?" Gao Yi couldn't hide the smile on his face. He said, "Why not?" Lei Xingfeng lamented, "Sai, I don't know how much effort it took me to get a doll, but you got one just by saying a few words. This is unfair." Gao Yi immediately laughed out loud and said, "This is what it means to have a strong character." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, yes, Uncle Gao is mighty. Uncle Gao is strong." Gao Yi was very proud of himself. He said, "You're not bad either. You have a smart puppet like Jingzia. I wonder what this ice puppet is like." He turned his head and asked, "What kind of puppet are you? Do you have a name?" The ice puppet replied, "Sir, I'm a combat puppet. I don't have a name." Gao Yi shook his head in disappointment. He knew that this was not an intelligent puppet. He said, "You'll be called Iceman from now on. Just follow me." The Iceman said, "Yes, Darren." He walked to stand behind Gao Yi and said, "Darren, I need ice crystals." His energy was about to run out. Gao Yi said, "Wait." I said, "Yes, sir." Lei Xingfeng said, "Ice crystals?" Gao Yi said, "I've never seen this thing before. It's probably something similar to the sky divination crystal." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Iceman, can the sky divination crystal be used?" Iceman said, "Darren, it can't." Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, then let's see if there are any here. If there aren't, then Iceman is useless." Gao Yi said, "Well, let's look for it." Lei Xingfeng said, "Iceman, where are the ice crystals here?" Iceman said, "Darren, in the ice crystal warehouse." Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng were overjoyed. Gao Yi said, "Take us there." Iceman did not refuse. In fact, he was more anxious than Gao Yi. If there was no energy to provide him, he would not be able to move. To Iceman, no energy was equivalent to death. The two silently followed Iceman. With Iceman leading the way, the two relaxed. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Our luck is really good." He guessed that because Gao Yi was of the ice attribute and had a high level of cultivation, Iceman probably thought that he was one of them. Soon, they arrived at the bottom of the ice cliff. The ice palaces were built along the ice cliff, but the palaces on the ice cliff didn't have any passageways to go up. If they flew into the air, they could see the layers of ice palaces extending up the ice cliff. The distance between each layer was about 40 to 20 meters. However, this was an absolute no-fly zone. Anyone who dared to fly would definitely be attacked. Iceman came to the bottom of the ice cliff and stood still. Then, he looked at Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng. Gao Yi said, "Go up." Iceman said, "Darren, go first." Gao Yi suddenly had a headache because this was a vertical ice surface. There was no way to go. Lei Xingfeng said, "You lead the way." Iceman's gaze was still fixed on Gao Yi. He was Iceman's master. Gao Yi reacted quickly. He nodded and said, "You lead the way." When Iceman heard Gao Yi's instructions, he immediately reached out and patted the ice wall. Then he stepped up. An amazing scene appeared, only to see a thick white mist appear and then quickly condense into an ice slab under Iceman's feet, and Iceman's foot just fell, followed by another cloud of mist, just falling on Iceman's other foot. Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, "Keep up." The two followed Iceman up one after the other. Lei Xingfeng kept looking down. They had walked up about a dozen ice steps, and then the ice plate at the bottom turned into mist and dissipated. Lei Xingfeng was secretly amazed. If it weren't for Iceman leading the way, it would be very difficult to go up to the palace on the ice cliff. Turning around, Iceman had already stepped on the platform outside the palace. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng followed him on the platform. At a glance, the mountains were surrounded by white snow, and the whistling of the wind came from time to time. What was strange was that there was no wind on the platform, and the whole platform was very cold. The palace on the ice cliff was one floor after another. Lei Xingfeng and the others went up to the second floor. The first floor was under the corner of the ice cliff, and the second floor was the platform where they stood. The platform was long and narrow, extending horizontally along the ice cliff. Behind the platform was the palace. Of course, the palace was hidden in the ice cliff, revealing only the outer buildings of the palace, such as huge doors and pillars, and various exquisite ice sculptures. These ice sculptures were real ice sculptures, not puppets. The entire palace and the ice cliff were pale blue, reflecting a cold face. Iceman didn't stop and continued to walk along the left side of the platform. Soon, he left the palace gate and came to the other side of the platform. It was still the ice cliff. He slapped the ice cliff hard and then stepped up. The same ice mist quickly emerged and quickly formed an ice plate. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's just follow. I've already recorded this place. Even if we don't use this passage, we can still come back." Gao Yi originally planned to let Iceman stay for a while so that he could explore the ice palace. But when he heard Lei Xingfeng's words, he immediately changed his mind and said, "Okay, let's follow." He was looking forward to it more and more. He didn't expect to receive an ice puppet here. This was a big gain. Now, what he was looking forward to most was to find an exclusive cultivation technique. This was the foundation of his life. The palace on the ice cliff had a total of 7 floors. Above it was still a towering ice cliff. They didn't know how high it was. When they were at the ice square at the bottom, they didn't feel that it was very high. However, when they reached the 5th floor, Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi couldn't help but sigh. They didn't know how much manpower and material resources were used to build this ice palace. Just the platform was amazing. After reaching the 5th floor, Iceman no longer continued to go up. Instead, he walked towards the palace gate and said, "There should be ice crystals here." Iceman came to a side door beside the gate. He reached out and pressed the light blue door. A moment later, a white light flashed and the door turned into a white mist. Then it dissipated and Iceman walked in. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi hurriedly followed. With a guide, everything was easy. Gao Yi whispered, I'm not sure if I can break through this gate. The side door was an ice tunnel. Iceman walked forward. It could be seen that Iceman was extremely familiar with this place. After a while, they entered an ice room. This room had tables and chairs made of ice, as well as a few random things that weren't worth money. Xian Feng and Gao Yi searched for a bit. The two of them glanced at each other, knowing that there wasn't anything worth attacking. Iceman paused for a moment, then walked to the wall on the right and reached out to press it. In an instant, a door appeared. This door was extremely secretive. If it hadn't been opened by Iceman, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng wouldn't have known about it. Iceman walked in, and Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi followed. It was another passage. Not far away, there was a fork in the road. Iceman didn't stop at all and went straight to the left passage. All the way down, there were two forks in a row. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi couldn't help but look at each other. This place was like a maze. If they were to explore it, it would probably take more than a few days. From the small passage, they entered the large passage. Soon, Iceman stopped at a point and reached out to press on the ice wall of the passage. Another door appeared. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but curse. This was too much. If a stranger entered here, it would definitely be painful. In a huge room, there was a 7-meter-long pool in the middle. It was full of light blue liquid. Iceman stood by the pool and said, "It's here." Gao Yi stared blankly at the pool and said after a long while, I'm F** King Rich. Lei Xingfeng said, "What is this?" Gao Yi said, "Ice marrow liquid. This is F** King Ice marrow liquid." Ha! He lost his composure and laughed. Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood that this thing might be like thunder plasma, which had a huge effect on attribute cultivators. He said, "But where are the ice crystals?" Gao Yi said, "It's under the ice marrow liquid. Those condensed crystals, haha, this is so cool." Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, this should be the treasure of an ice attribute cultivator." He gradually understood that perhaps every attribute cultivator had their own most precious treasure. This ice marrow liquid was estimated to be of great benefit to ice attribute cultivators, just like when he came into contact with thunder plasma. Iceman said, "I need ice crystals." Without Gao Ye's authorization, he could never get the ice crystals at the bottom of the pool. Chapter 440. Gao Yi said, "Take as much as you need." At this moment, he was very generous. Iceman bent down and reached into the pool. The blue ice marrow liquid in the pool was not deep, about 1.5 feet. The bottom was full of finger-thick ice crystals, densely piled at the bottom of the pool. When Iceman's arm reached into the pool, an amazing scene appeared in an instant. A layer of frost crept up Iceman's arm, followed by a layer of icy mist. Iceman quickly scooped up 2 ice crystals and immediately retracted his arm. His arm could no longer bend, and a layer of faint white light appeared on his arm. After a moment, the chill was finally dispelled. Lei Xingfeng clicked his tongue and said, "Damn, this ice marrow liquid is so cold." Gao Yi said, "If we reach in, we'll freeze in an instant. If we can't break free, then we're done for." Lei Xingfeng said, "You can't do it either?" Gao Yi said, "If I don't have any defenses, I can't do it either. However, I'm fine now because I know how to deal with it." Lei Xingfeng said, "How will you deal with it?" Gao Yi laughed mischievously and said, "It's very simple. You could do it too." Lei Xingfeng did not understand and asked, "How?" Gao Yi took out a container. It was a crystal bottle with a large belly and a small mouth. There was an extremely simple seal engraved on it. He said, "It's very simple. Just don't touch the ice marrow liquid." Xian Feng had similar bottles, and he had a lot of them. They were necessary to store some special liquids. In the past, normal bottles could be used to store water or wine, as well as some special liquids. But after arriving in the outer space, they discovered that some of the liquids here couldn't be stored in normal bottles. For example, lightning liquid and plasma. If there wasn't a small restriction, the moment a normal bottle came in contact with it, it would immediately turn into nothing. Gao Yi said, "You can also collect some. This stuff is very rare. Who knows when you'll need it?" Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "Of course. I won't let it go." The two of them started to fill the bottles with the ice marrow liquid. Lei Xingfeng only took 10 big bottles before stopping. He did not need to take more. However, he was prepared to collect more ice crystals. Iceman threw the 2 ice crystals into his mouth and swallowed them directly. In an instant, his whole body was cold. After standing for a while, the chill on his body gradually weakened. It can be seen that he has become much more powerful. The pond of ice marrow liquid, as well as the layer of ice crystals at the bottom, was completely cleaned up. It took the two of them more than half a day. Gao Ye's face was full of smiles, unable to conceal his joy. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle Gao, do you know how to use the ice marrow liquid?" Gao Yi immediately revealed an awkward expression. He said, "The cultivation technique I obtained is not an exclusive ice-type cultivation technique. Perhaps there is one here. However, we don't have time to continue exploring. Let's find your little sister first." Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "Okay, we'll leave this place for later exploration." This time, we were able to find the ice marrow liquid and ice crystals. The harvest is not small. Uncle Gao also obtained Iceman. Let's leave this place. Gao Yi said, "Iceman, do you know the way out?" Iceman said, "Yes, I know the way out." This was the advantage of having a local puppet. There was no need to run around randomly. There were all kinds of strange restrictions everywhere in the forbidden area. With the puppet leading the way, the restrictions were no longer a problem. Exiting from the ice palace, Iceman took the two of them down to the bottom floor, turned around a few times, followed a passage, and soon came to the underground. This was a huge ice cave with a secret door made of ice in the middle. Iceman said, "We need ice crystals." Gao Yi said, "How many?" Iceman said, "Just one piece." Gao Yi handed him an ice crystal and said, "Can you activate it?" Iceman said, "No need to activate it. Just insert the ice crystal. This is a one-way secret door that can directly leave the ice palace." Gao Yi said, "Okay." Iceman inserted the ice crystal into the secret door. Suddenly, a layer of light appeared in the secret door. After a few fluctuations, it stabilized. Iceman said, "It can be used." Lei Xingfeng looked at the surrounding environment and said, "Is this considered a tropical rainforest?" The air was humid and warm. In the dense forest, some trees were hundreds of meters tall, and their trunks were even more than 10 meters in diameter. It was breathtaking. Thick vines hung down from the trees, forming a green curtain. Flocks of birds rose and fell in the forest. Gao Yi said, "We're coming." He looked back. The snowy mountain formed a white line in the sky. Iceman stood quietly behind him. A thick white fog rose from his body. Lei Xingfeng understood at a glance that Iceman's body was extremely cold. When it met the warm and humid air, it immediately turned into white fog. Gao Yi said, "A phone, put him into the mirror realm." Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "Yes, if he continues to stay outside, he will be an extremely obvious target. Leaving the extremely cold climate, Iceman will probably consume a lot of energy outside." Putting away Iceman, Lei Xingfeng released the blackbird. The blackbird circled in the air and landed on Exine Feng's shoulder, speaking with hidden bitterness. "Grandpa, ancestor, Lord, you finally thought of this bird. Jie, this bird is about to suffocate to death. Wow, this is a good place, a good place." Caw! As he spoke, he became excited. Lei Xingfeng ignored him. Instead, he flew to the top of a big tree and looked around. Gao Yi flew to the top of the tree and said, "What are you looking at? There are only trees here. There's nothing else." Lei Xingfeng had a special instinct. He could see light that others could not. According to Lei Xingfeng's understanding, it was a treasure light. As long as something glowed, it was a good thing. This had been proven countless times. He had firmly believed in it. Therefore, whenever he went to a new place, he would use this ability to check the local situation. Gao Yi did not have such a heaven-defying ability. Therefore, in his eyes, this was a boundless and dense forest. As far as the eye could see, the green treetops undulated like ocean waves. Mist rose from the forest in the distance. Countless birds flew up and down, emitting a cacophony of cries. Occasionally, strange beast roars could be heard from the forest. It was unknown what kind of beast was roaring. However, in Lei Xingfeng's eyes, it was completely different. He saw a lot of light shining through the canopy. Of course, these lights were strong and weak. One of them was very strong. It was about 800 meters away from his position. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Can we fly here?" Gao Yi said, "Flying close to the canopy should not be a problem." Lei Xingfeng noticed that the sky was full of small birds. There were no large birds at all. He said, "Okay, got it." Gao Yi looked around. After a while, he said, "Where are we going?" This place was too unfamiliar. Lei Xingfeng had a map, but it was only a rough location. After a long time, he hesitated and said, "Although we have crossed the mountain range, it seems that we have reached the other end. Let's go to a place first." As he said this, he flew to the right. Flying close to the canopy, the distance of 800 meters was covered in an instant. It was a huge, ancient tree. The light shining from its roots penetrated through layers of obstacles and reached the top of the canopy. After Lei Xingfeng landed, he could not help but click his tongue in wonder. He did not know what kind of plant this was, but there was no doubt that there was something good in this root. Gao Yi followed him and asked, "What is it?" Lei Xingfeng said proudly, "There is a treasure." Gao Yi was confused. "Where? Where is it? What treasure? Why don't I see it?" Of course, he could not see it. Even Lei Xingfeng could not figure out what treasure it was. It was even more impossible for him to know. The blackbird suddenly called out, "Baby, baby, where are you?" "Caw!" Lei Xingfeng slapped the blackbird off his shoulder and said, "Of all things to learn, why learn to be so wretched?" He did not know who the blackbird was with in the mirror realm. It was not right to speak. The blackbird immediately showed a pitiful expression. It circled a few times and spoke, "Bird was wrong, bird was wrong." As it spoke, it landed on Xianfeng's shoulder and tried to please him. "Master, bird was wrong." It was the first time Gao Yi had seen the blackbird so mischievous. He said in surprise, "This bird, this mouth, it can really talk. It can talk better than anyone." The blackbird said proudly, "Of course, sir. This bird can talk very well. Bird be greets, sir." This guy recognized people and spoke. Its intuition had always been very good. It had long noticed that Gao Yi was not ordinary, but had never had a chance to flatter him. Now it took the opportunity to talk. Gao Yi was stunned. After a while, he could not help but laugh. "Haha, you're called Burbud? That's really amazing." The blackbird said happily, of course, amazing." Gao Yi asked, "A phone? Where did you find this clown?" The blackbird was even more happy. A clown, a living treasure. This evaluation made it very satisfied. It said repeatedly, "Yes, yes, sir. This bird is a clown." Xianfeng laughed. This was truly a clown. However, he liked this bird quite a bit. Its antics made his life not so dull and boring. Gao Yi ignored the blackbird and said, "Right. Where is the treasure?" Lei Xingfeng pointed to the roots of the tree and said, "Under the roots. As for what it is, I don't know." Gao Yi looked at the roots and then looked at Lei Xingfeng. He could not understand it all. "What do you mean? Why can't I understand? How do you know there is a treasure under the roots? This is too magical." The blackbird said, "It must be magical. This bird knows." Lei Xingfeng said, "Won't you know once you dig it up?" Gao Yi looked at the huge ancient tree and said, "Fortunately, we're cultivators. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to dig out this big tree." As he said this, he raised his hand and slapped the tree trunk. Then his body suddenly flew backwards. Lei Xingfeng obviously knew the power of this guy's palm. He instantly flashed far away. A palm mark appeared on the thick tree trunk. It was just an ordinary white dot, but in less than a second, the white dot suddenly spread out, spreading up and down the tree trunk. In just a dozen seconds, the huge ancient tree turned into a tree that looked like it was carved out of ice crystals. Cold and hot alternated, and a large amount of fog rose. Gao Yi smiled slightly. He raised his hand and pushed out another palm. A large illusory hand appeared and instantly smashed the ancient tree. Chapter 441. Boom! The entire tree immediately shattered, turning into ice cubes that filled the sky, flying in all directions and collapsing in an instant. This was the power of a cultivator's attack. Of course, as a Heaven Monarch realm expert, this kind of attack was really nothing. He pushed out another palm and instantly blew away the ice shards that piled up like a small mountain, revealing the roots of the ancient tree. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "So violent." "Huh." Gao Yi said, "The simpler the method, the faster it is." As he spoke, he came to the roots of the tree and stuck his hand in. With a cracking sound, one of his hands had already sunk into the soil beside the roots. In an instant, a circle of white light flashed, and the ground immediately condensed into a thick ice block. Then he used his strength to lift it up, and an entire piece of soil and the roots of the ancient tree was revealed. He lightly shouted, "Open!" With a loud bang, the huge ice block was like a lid being opened. It was blasted to the side, revealing the soil underneath. In an instant, a red light flashed. This time, even Gao Yi could see it clearly. A red light penetrated through the soil. Gao Yi said in surprise, this red light is so strange. What is it?" Lei Xingfeng jumped into the pit and reached out to dig. After a while, he found a black object. It was a long strip about 2 feet long and as thick as an adult's arm. It was flat and emitted a scorching aura. Lei Xingfeng held it in his hand and felt that it was a little hot. Gao Yi frowned and said, "This thing, I don't like it." Lei Xingfeng jumped out of the pit and asked curiously, "Why don't you like it?" Gao Yi took a step back and said, "This thing gives me a very strong sense of threat." Lei Xingfeng played with this strange thing and said, "What a strange feeling. I have an impulse to kill." "Well, let Jingzia come out and take a look." As he spoke, he called Jingzia out. Jingzia said, "You call me for something?" Lei Xingfeng handed the black object to her and said, "Take a look. What is this?" Jingzia just touched it and immediately withdrew her hand. She said, "Use thunder and lightning to wash it." I'm very familiar with this thing. It could be seen that she was also quite afraid. Lei Xingfeng's hand emitted a large amount of electric arcs, shining with dazzling light. As Lei Xingfeng increased the output of thunder and lightning, the black stick-like object emitted traces of red light. Although it was very faint, the three of them could hear it clearly. Pieces of the black substance fell down, and the red light it emitted became brighter and brighter. When a large amount of lightning was injected into it, the outer layer of the black stick completely peeled off, revealing the thing inside. Xian Feng's first impression was of an unparalleled visual impact. At first glance, it was a pure red, but upon closer inspection, one could see layers upon layers of different reds, each of them wriggling as if they were alive or as if there were countless flames within them. He exclaimed, "So beautiful!" Sword seal. This is a fire attribute sword seal. Jingzia said with certainty. Gao Yi frowned and thought carefully. After a while, he said, "This is the first time I've heard of it. I've only heard of fire seals, lei yin, ice seals, and so on. I've never heard of sword seals. Is there anything special about sword seals?" Jingzia said, "Sword seals are the life weapons of high-level cultivators. Don't you know this?" Lei Xingfeng said with a wry smile, "I really don't know. Maybe the seals we condense are the most basic ones. My Leiyin is mainly used to support the defense of the 1,000 Leaves, silver and thunder and lightning attacks. Its greatest use is actually defense. Using Leiyin for defense had become common knowledge after advancing to the 6th ring." Jingzia said, "Seals are the foundation of all cultivators. Only with this foundation can you use more methods. For example, this sword seal is the red glow sword seal. It can be considered a basic seal weapon. There are different forms. It depends on your preference." Lei Xingfeng said, "In other words, there will be knife seals, hammer seals, and even stick seals?" Jingzia said, "Yes, that's what it means. It doesn't matter what kind of seal it is. What's important is that it can be used to enhance the function of the seal." Lei Xingfeng shook his head with a wry smile. He said, "I don't know how to refine this kind of seal." Jingzia said, "You can use this sword seal. However, it won't be as powerful as the one used by its original owner. After all, you didn't refine it and it doesn't fit your Lei. However, it won't be a problem to use it. Gao Yi said, "Can I use it?" Jing Zia shook her head. "You're of the ice element, which opposes the fire element. You can't use it. If you're the earth element or the wood element, you can use it. Only the water element and the ice element can't. Of course, if your strength is far greater than the original owners, you can also use this sword seal. However, at that level, you won't bother to use it." Gao Yi said, "I knew it. However, I can use other elements." "Weapon seals?" Jing Zia said, "Of course. In fact, the best combination for the water element is the wood element. Unfortunately, you're of the ice element. It's a little difficult for you to use anything. You'll have to explore it yourself." Gao Yi said, "Forget it. Where can I find a weapon seal? Let alone experiment with it?" Lei Xingfeng said, "How do I use this thing?" Jing Zia said in surprise, "You don't know? Just put in your Lei. It's not your life weapon. It's just a loan. Of course, you'll have to wash it with thunder plasma and imbue it with your thunder element. That way, it'll be easier to use. Well, if you meet a cultivator of the fire element in the future, you can use it to exchange for something you need." Lei Xingfeng could clearly feel the scorching aura of the red afterglow sword seal, which was gushing out wave after wave from the sword seal. If it weren't for the thunder handguard, his hand would have been burnt. With a slight thought, the red afterglow sword seal disappeared from his hand and reappeared in Lei Yin's hand in an instant. Immediately, wisps of flames appeared all over Lei Xingfeng's body. Then the red afterglow sword seal appeared in his hand again. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "It's burning me to death." Jing Zia said, "Didn't I tell you that you can only use it after washing it with thunder plasma?" Although Lei Xingfeng had been burned, he had learned a little about the characteristics of the red afterglow sword seal. He instinctively felt that the red afterglow sword seal contained a great power that his Lei Ying couldn't suppress at all. He said, "Well, I'll have a try, but I don't think I can suppress the red afterglow sword seal." Jing Zia said, "Of course your Lei Yin's level is lower than the red afterglow sword seal. It's strange that you can suppress it. I asked you to wash it with thunder plasma to form some kind of tacit understanding so that you can borrow the power of the red afterglow sword seal. Why do you want to suppress it?" Lei Xingfeng said a little embarrassedly, "Well, I was a little impatient." "Huh." He laughed awkwardly. Lei Xingfeng understood the skill of washing with thunder plasma. He turned his wrist, and a bottle appeared in his hand. He had collected a lot of thunder plasma in the magnetic storm mountains. There were about 10 drops of thunder plasma in this bottle. Using the power of thunder and lightning to support the red afterglow sword seal, Lei Xingfeng threw a drop of thunder plasma from the bottle and guided it to the red afterglow sword seal. In an instant, countless electric arcs flashed, and the red afterglow sword seal emitted layers of flames. The flames were very thin and rolled on the surface of the red afterglow sword seal. They looked very beautiful, like layers of sunset clouds rolling and changing. The thunder and lightning penetrated the red afterglow sword seal little by little, and soon there were traces of silver light in the flames. Soon, the drop of thunder plasma disappeared. Lei Xingfeng carefully observed the red afterglow sword seal. He could see traces of thunder and lightning jumping in the first layer of flames. He threw out another drop of thunder plasma. Half an hour later, the bottle of thunder plasma was used up, but the red afterglow sword seal was only half washed. Jing Zia and Gao Yi kept watching and observing. At this time, Jing Zia said, "Not enough, far from enough." Gao Yi sighed with emotion. "It's really amazing. I wonder how powerful it is." Lei Xingfeng took out another bottle of thunder plasma and sprinkled it on the red afterglow sword seal one drop after another. Gao Yi and Jing Zia watched very patiently. For the two of them, this was also a kind of experience. Gao Yi knew that thunder plasma and the ice marrow liquid he obtained were both treasures of the same attribute. If he obtained a similar weapon, he could also use the ice marrow liquid to wash it. It was just that the effect wouldn't be as good as Lei Xingfeng's thunder plasma. After using 17 bottles of thunder plasma, The red afterglow sword seal was finally washed completely. The more it was washed, the more thunder plasma it would need. According to Lei Xingfeng's observation, the outermost layer of flames could be washed completely with just one drop of thunder plasma. For the last layer, he actually needed 8 bottles of thunder plasma to wash it completely. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to penetrate so deep. After being washed by 17 bottles of thunder plasma, the red afterglow sword seal had already turned pale red. There were countless thin silver strands, which were the thunder and lightning in the flames. After combining the flames and the thunder and lightning, Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "It's done." Jingzia said, "Now you should be able to put it into your Leiyin." Only then did Lei Xingfeng try to put the red afterglow sword seal into Leiyin. In an instant, the red afterglow sword seal disappeared from his hand. This time, although he felt a wave of heat, his whole body was no longer emitting flames. Leiyin contained a large amount of thunder plasma and some thunder plasma. When the red afterglow sword seal entered, Leiyin began to violently change. This was an instinct. Because it wasn't a weapon of the same attribute, Leiyin instinctively began to reject it. What made Lei Xingfeng feel very magical was that with the rejection, the red afterglow sword seal went through another round of washing. This time, under the strong interference of Lei Xingfeng, the red afterglow sword seal gradually stabilized. Gao Yi said curiously, "Try its power." Jingzia hurriedly said, "Don't try it here. This is a forest. If the red afterglow sword seal is used, it will probably be destroyed." Gao Yi was shocked and said, "Indeed. Let's find a spacious place and try it again. It would be a pity to destroy this place." With the strength of a heaven monarch, a simple attack would be enough to destroy this forest, even without using the red afterglow sword seal. That would be a pity. This forest nurtured many precious herbs and spirit herbs. Lei Xingfeng said, "Actually, I don't have the confidence to use it. I just put it into Leiyin, and it is not stable enough. I need some time to get used to it." Gao Yi and Jingzia also realized that this was indeed not a suitable time to use the red afterglow sword seal. Gao Yi said, "All right, let's continue. This is not a place to stay for long." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Let's go. This place should not be far from our destination." Chapter 442. Along the way, with Lei Xingfeng's unique vision, they found a lot of precious spiritual herbs. Many of them were things that Gao Yi had never seen before. Sometimes he felt very strange. He had lived on this continent for much longer than Lei Xingfeng, but he had never been so lucky. Gao Yi couldn't help but mutter, "It's really strange. How do you know so many spiritual herbs?" The blackbird suddenly blurted out, "Good luck." It had heard this sentence countless times, so it just blurted it out without any hesitation. Gao Yi smiled bitterly. "Luck, it's really luck. Why don't I have it?" Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "You do. Hee hee. Your luck is that you met me." Before Gao Yi could speak, the blackbird took the lead and laughed twice. Gao Yi said seriously, "That's right. Your good luck is my good luck." The blackbird said, "It's also bird's luck." Unfortunately, as soon as it said this, it was glared at by Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi. The blackbird was still very unconvinced and said, "Isn't it? Isn't it? It's just bird's luck." Lei Xingfeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bird's luck was just no luck. He said, "Shut up." The blackbird muttered, "You're bullying birds again." Gao Yi heard it and couldn't help but laugh. He said, "That's good. You're bullying birds again, huh?" Jingzia said expressionlessly, "It's not the first time." Lei Xingfeng said, Well, bird viewed. If you say it again, I'll tie your mouth." The blackbird was immediately frightened. Its mouth was sharp, so of course it could be tied up. So it was frightened and directly hid its head in its wings, not daring to show it again. Gao Yi looked at the blackbird in surprise and said, "Is this how it dodges?" Lei Xingfeng turned his head and looked at the blackbird on his shoulder. He held back his laughter and said, "Yes, when it pretends to be dead, it hides its head in its wings." Sometimes I think it's very cute like this. Gao Yi glanced at the blackbird and said, "It's pretty fun." He had to admit that the blackbird was rather cute at this moment. The blackbird's body trembled. Of course, it had heard the conversation between the two, but it cursed in its heart. Since when are birds cute? Since when was it fun? You two bastards mockingbirds. However, it no longer dared to say it out loud. It could not afford to offend either of these two fellows, so it might as well continue to play dead. Gao Yi laughed. Interesting. Playing dead again. Huh. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go. Let's find an open space and test the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal. I'm very curious about how powerful this thing is." Gao Yi said, "Yes, and we'll also look for your little sister's secret door." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay." The two of them led Jingzia all the way down. After passing through a forest, several low hills appeared. Gao Yi looked around and pointed to a huge rock more than 30 meters high in the distance. "Try with that thing." It was a huge rock that was 200 to 300 meters long and more than 30 meters high. It looked like a crouching tiger. There were many trees growing in the cracks of the rock. The dark rock was particularly conspicuous in the sparse forest. Lei Xingfeng stared at the huge rock and said with a smile, "This is a good target." The two of them quickly approached. Jingzia said, "The vegetation here is also very lush, but we can already take precautions." She pointed to Gao Yi. It should be known that Gao Yi was an ice cultivator, so he was very suitable to extinguish the fire. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to fly high in the sky. Instead, he flew about 5 or 6 meters above the ground and hovered there. He stared at the huge rock for a moment and said, "Let me try the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal." The Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal was in Lei Yin's hand. In this short period of time, Lei Xingfeng could clearly feel the thunder and lightning constantly cleansing the sword seal. Unfortunately, the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal was not of the thunder attribute. Otherwise, it could be directly integrated into Lei Yin's body, and its power would definitely be stronger than the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal. Intuitively, Lei Xingfeng believed that the power of the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal was not bad. As for how good it was, he needed to test it. After a moment of contemplation, Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Gao, take Jingzia and retreat to the back." Gao Yi and Jingzia retreated and stared at the huge rock not far away. Gao Yi said with a smile, "Okay, you can use your sword now." Lei Xingfeng lightly shouted, "Qi." In an instant, Lei Yin emerged. A red light flew out along with bits of silver stars. In the blink of an eye, the red light emitted scorching flames and suddenly spread out. 100-meter-long fiery red shadow was pulled out of Lei Yin's body, twisting and pouncing on the rock. The red shadow was extremely fast. In an instant, it was already close to the rock. The red shadow instantly turned into a real flame mixed with jumping electric arcs, shining with a dazzling brilliance. Boom! The sword seal chopped on the rock. The dark rock unexpectedly flickered with a red light. With the bombardment of the flame and lightning, the whole rock immediately collapsed. A heat wave spread out, and the surrounding trees and low shrubs were immediately set ablaze. Gao Yi immediately took action. His ice seal flew out, and countless ice crystals fell from the sky and struck down in an instant. The density of the ice crystals was like a rainstorm, immediately enveloping a radius of 1,000 meters. Under the bombardment of the ice crystals, the fire was completely extinguished before it could spread out. Lei Xingfeng cheered. Good. He knew that if the fire spread out, it would be very difficult even for him to extinguish it. Gao Yi said, "Let's go and take a look. This sword seal is a bit powerful." The middle part of the huge rock had completely disappeared, leaving only the two ends of the rock. The 300-meter-long rock was missing about 100 meters in the middle. Lei Xingfeng was also a bit dumbfounded. This power was a bit too strong. His previous methods were not worth mentioning. This kind of attack was truly fatal. Gao Yi sighed and said, "Not bad power, but it's too scattered." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, it's not enough control. I can only use my full strength to attack, but I can't control it accurately. If it's used against a large group of enemies, this move should be very powerful. But against 1 or 2 people, it's a waste. It's very difficult to use this move continuously. Gao Yi said, this requires time to adjust and explore. It's a pity that I can refine my own sword seal. It's a pity that I don't have the relevant cultivation method. Lei Xingfeng said, I'll find it. He thought of those places in the magnetic storm mountain range that he still couldn't enter. His intuition told him that there must be something he needed there. Jing Zia said, it's not ideal. This power is a bit weak. As far as I know, the sword seal is much more powerful. Lei Xingfeng said, this is already very good. It's much stronger than my previous methods. I need time to explore. When I refine my own Thunder Sword Seal, I won't need to use the Red Mist Sword Seal anymore. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi chatted for a while. Lei Xingfeng was quite satisfied with the power of the Sword Seal. Even though Jing Zia looked down on it, Lei Xingfeng was still very happy. This weapon was a bit beyond his expectations. Gao Yi said, your sister's secret door should be nearby. A phone, we don't have enough people. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, it's okay. I'll find someone to help. With the Mirror Realm, he could bring a group of people with him and ask for help at any time. Lei Xingfeng summoned a group of about 20 people from the Mirror Realm. Lei Xingfeng quickly assigned them tasks and gave them a message card. Then he said, split up and search. Once you find her, send a signal immediately. The group of guards immediately dispersed. They already had a rough location, so the direction of the search was very clear. 3 days later, Lei Xingfeng found the secret door where his sister was. It was a very simple camp located in a forest. If it weren't for the 20 or so guards searching for her, it would be very easy to miss. Lei Xingyao didn't expect Lei Xingfeng to find her. She was very worried because she couldn't go back. Begging her master was useless, and even her master couldn't do anything. So during this time, the little girl was very depressed. She didn't expect Lei Xingfeng to find her. The moment she saw Lei Xingfeng, her tears didn't stop. Brother, I thought I would never see you again. Lei Xingfeng hugged his sister helplessly and said, don't cry, don't cry. Look, I found you. Gao Yi looked at them with a smile. It was the first time he saw Lei Xingfeng so flustered. Lei Xingyao cried and said, Yi can't be found. Brother can't be found either. Well, I'm scared. Lei Xingfeng said, don't be scared. I'm here. Yi is here too. Lei Xingyao was surprised and said, Yi is here too? Wow, that's great. You found Yi. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, yes. Yi went to the magnetic storm mountain to practice. Don't worry. If he wants to come back, it'll be easy. When they found the camp of the secret sect, where Lei Xingfeng was, Lei Xingfeng put his subordinates into the mirror world. He said, sister, why are you living here? It's too shabby. When Lei Xingyao saw her brother and learned that Yi was fine, she suddenly became a different person. After crying, her face was full of smiles. She pulled Lei Xingfeng and went up a huge old tree. There was a shabby wooden house built on top of it. The other members of the secret sect were scattered in the forest. Most of them lived in tree houses like this. Since it was a forest and the disciples of Lei Xingyao's sect were mostly wood cultivators, this was the most suitable place for them to live. Gao Yi and Jing Zia followed them into the treehouse. Lei Xingyao said, Grandma, my brother is here. Yin Xiaoqing smiled and said, good, good. She finally breathed a sigh of relief. During this time, Lei Xingyao was gloomy, which made her heart ache. She didn't know how to comfort her. Finally, she saw the little girl's smiling face. She was very happy. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, Grandma, you've worked hard. Yin Xiaoqing smiled and said, you flatter me. Everyone sit down. This is... She looked at Gao Yi and instinctively felt threatened. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, this is Gao Yi, Uncle Gao, the Lord of Heaven. Yin Xiaoqing was shocked. She was a Lord of Heaven. However, she was a fake Lord of Heaven. She was only a little stronger than a ninth ring sage. When she heard that Gao Yi was a Lord of Heaven, she couldn't sit still. She stood up and said, greetings, Senior. Gao Yi didn't want to put on airs. He knew that this old man was Lei Xingfeng's guard and should be very close to the little girl. This little girl was Lei Xingfeng's lifeblood. He said, "You're welcome. I'm good friends with the Feng and also a member of his family." "Yes, we're family." Chapter 443. Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't be so polite, Grandma. Uncle Gao is family." Yin Xiaoqing looked at Jingzia and asked curiously, Who is she?" Jingzia said coldly, "Jingzia." Yin Xiaoqing opened her mouth but swallowed her words. She felt that Jingzia wasn't human, but she couldn't say it. Xi and Yao looked at Gao Yi and Jingzia curiously. She knew that anyone who followed her brother was very powerful. She stepped forward and said, "Hello, Uncle Gao, Sister Jingzia." Gao Yi said, "And this is for you." He summoned Iceman and said, "This is an ice doll for you." It was the first time Xi and Yao saw Iceman. She said, "Wow, it's all white mist." Large amounts of white mist rose from Iceman's body. Yin Xiaoqing glanced at it and said, "Good stuff, Yao Yao. This thing will be of great help to you." In addition to various methods, the temperature control was also a kind of knowledge. With Iceman's help, Xi and Yao had obtained a low-temperature equipment. Xi and Yao immediately understood the reason behind it and immediately bowed. "Thank you, Uncle Gao. Yao Yao likes this gift." Gao Yi carefully taught Xi and Yao how to control Iceman and then smiled. "This thing isn't very useful to me. Its power is average and can't help me much, but it's more useful to you." Lei Xingfeng said, "You don't have to put it outside. You can put it in the hidden Luan space. The climate here is warm. It's not suitable for Iceman to stay for long." Lei Xi and Yao had received the silver and gold level mannequins from Xi and Feng before, so she quickly learned how to control the Iceman and put it into her hidden Luan space as instructed. Lei Xingfeng noticed that Xi and Yao had reached the 9th ring sage level. He smiled. "Yao Yao, when did you reach the 9th ring sage level?" "That's amazing." Although Xi and Yao hadn't reached the peak of the 9th ring sage level, this speed of advancement was already very fast. Yin Xiaoqing said, "Our girl is very hardworking. She usually only rests and cultivates. She rarely plays." Xi and Feng understood that the reason why Xi and Yao worked so hard was to not be a burden to him, hoping that he could become stronger. He rubbed Xi and Yao's head out of habit and said, "Yao Yao, don't be too tired, you still need to play." Xi and Yao smiled. "Brother, I'm not tired. Our ancestors said that when we find with techniques, we can change our techniques. Then we won't have to work so hard." Gao said, "Techniques from the forbidden area?" Lei Xi and Yao nodded. And yes, Master and Ancestor both went to the forbidden area. They even invited a few powerful experts. That forbidden area was built by wood-attributed practitioners. Yin Xiaoqing said, "It's called Green Forest Hall. The restrictions are quite strong. We were all warned not to go out until they come back." Lei Xingfeng knew that the most powerful person in Xi and Yao's secret sect was Luo Yeruo. She was a Dao Lord, an extremely powerful person. Even Wu Yang had to be respectful when he saw her. Xi and Yao's master was also a Dao Lord. Yin Luo was an expert on the same level as Wu Yang. In Xin Yao's secret sect, wood elemental cultivators had the highest status, followed by wood elemental cultivators, and then other elemental cultivators. Generally speaking, it was very difficult for other elemental cultivators to reach the level of monarch. Most of them were 9th ring sage, unable to progress any further. This secret sect was heaven for wood elemental cultivators. Lei Xingfeng said, Yao Yao, are there no experts guarding here?" Yin Xiaoqing said, "It's fine. There are no strong beasts or star beasts in this area. The Ancestral Master has already scouted this area. As long as we stay in the camp, there won't be any danger." Gao Yi shook his head slightly. "You're too careless. This world looks harmless, but if something happens, it'll be a big deal. Even your elders don't know much about this place." Having lived on this continent for so many years, he was well aware of the dangers here. Many cultivators, even those with decent strength, would be confused by the tranquility of this place and eventually die without knowing why. Yin Shaoqing didn't care. As long as we don't run around, there won't be too much danger. After the elders left, the disciples in the camp all stopped their daily activities. As long as we don't go out and this place has already been scouted, there shouldn't be any danger. Gao Yi shook his head and didn't continue. There were some things that were useless, even if he said too much. Not provoking didn't mean that nothing would provoke them. He muttered, "You guys are lucky." Lei Xingfeng asked, "That's right, that Qing Sun Hall. What kind of place is it?" Yin Shaoqing said, "It's a forbidden area." The ancestral master obtained a star python record that recorded the location of Qing Sun Hall in the forbidden area. It said that it's a place passed down from ancient times. It's very likely that there's a wood attribute cultivation method there. It's just that the place is completely sealed, so we have to find a way to break the seal and enter. Lei Xingyao nodded. Yes. For the sake of Qing Sun Hall, the ancestral master specially found many experts to go with him. Lei Xingfeng said, "Is it the ancestral master Luo Yeruo?" Lei Xingyao said, "And yes." The ancestral master was very happy. He said that if we can find a wood attribute cultivation method, our hidden sect will be able to develop greatly. The importance of a cultivation method was self-evident. Once it was obtained, the entire hidden sect would benefit. At this time, the hidden sect had already realized that they were weak and that there was a huge problem with their cultivation method. Yin Shaoqing and Lei Xingyao both revealed expressions of joy, especially Lei Xingyao. She was a pure wood attribute cultivator, just like Lei Xingfeng. Once she obtained a cultivation method from this place, even if it was a basic one, her cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. After Lei Xingfeng finished cultivating the basic lightning attribute cultivation method, he directly rushed to the level of a Sky Monarch expert. This was a chance for the hidden sect, a chance for development. Whoever obtained it would stand at the top of the hidden sect. It was no wonder that Luo Yeruo didn't even care about her own hidden sect and gathered a group of experts to Qing Sun Hall. Not only did Lei Xingfeng and the others understand this, but Luo Yeruo also understood it. As a Dao monarch ancestor, she knew better than anyone that if they wanted to continue moving forward, they had to have great strength. Lei Xingfeng said, "I hope the ancestral master can succeed." In addition to strength, obtaining a cultivation method depended more on luck. Sometimes, one didn't even need to put in much effort to obtain the cultivation method they needed. Of course, there are also people who spent a lot of time and energy and paid all kinds of prices but still failed. This was because their luck was too bad. He hoped that Luo Yeruo's luck would be better. Lei Xingyao waved her small fist and said, "She will definitely succeed. I believe in the ancestral master. She is omnipotent." Yin Shaoqing suddenly stared at Lei Xingfeng. She was a little puzzled and said, "A Feng, why can't I see through your cultivation? You have advanced to true monarch?" Gao Yi said, "A Feng is now a Sky Monarch expert." Yin Shaoqing was immediately dumbfounded. Even Lei Xingyao couldn't close her small mouth. After a while, Yin Shaoqing said, "How is that possible? How long has it been?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I found the basic thunder cultivation method because the cultivation method here is too advanced. As long as I can cultivate it, it is not surprising that I can become a true monarch or sky monarch. This is only the basic cultivation method." Yin Shaoqing said, "Oh my God, no wonder the ancestral master didn't care about us and wanted to go to Qing Sun Hall. The local cultivation method is so powerful." Their luck was too good. Their secret sect had been here for a while and finally found their target. This was also thanks to the power of the ancestral master. A Dao monarch was definitely a top secret sect. There was no doubt about its ability. But even so, they were still inferior to Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng had already cultivated the local cultivation method, and it was a cultivation method that was compatible with his attribute. Lei Xingyao hugged Lei Xingfeng's arm and said happily, "Wow, brother is already a sky monarch. Isn't this the same as master? This is great. If anyone dares to bully me, I will use brother to beat him." Lei Xingfeng suddenly felt dizzy. He said, "I don't mind if you want me to fight, but don't use brother to beat people. Your brother is not a knife. Lei Xingyao said coquettishly, "It's all the same, he." Exine Feng finally let go of the last bit of heaviness in his heart. Although the migration was rushed, he still managed to find his grandpa and little sister. With the help of the mirror world, he didn't have to separate anymore. Even if he did, with the mirror world, there wouldn't be any problems. With the mirror world and a safe home, Lei Xingfeng completely let go of the burden in his heart. In the future, he would pursue higher cultivation and greater power. He didn't know how many dangers there would be in the future, but he knew very well that his own strength was the best weapon. Lei Xingfeng said, "Grandma, I have something to say to Yao Yao." Gao Yi stood up and said, "I'll go downstairs." Yin Shaoqing could only stand up and leave. She said, "Okay, I'll leave too." They were all smart people. They knew that the brother and sister had something to talk about that couldn't be said to outsiders. Lei Xingyao didn't stop them. Seeing Gao Yi and Yin Shaoqing leave the treehouse, she whispered, "Brother, what's the matter?" Lei Xingfeng didn't delay. He held Lei Xingyao's hand and instantly returned to the mirror world. The surrounding scenery suddenly changed. Lei Xingyao said in surprise, What is this place?" Because Lei Xingfeng was beside her, she didn't panic. She was especially surprised and curious. According to her understanding, this should be a place similar to the secret hidden space, but it was different from what she knew. Lei Xingfeng laughed. "This is the mirror world." Lei Xingyao's knowledge was not as good as Lei Xingfeng's, so she didn't have any concept of the mirror world. She said, "Mirror world? What's that?" "Brother, is it the secret hidden space?" Lei Xingfeng said, "No, it's not the secret hidden space. The secret hidden space has a fixed entrance. Once it's formed, it can't be moved. The mirror world can be moved. Its strong point is that we can go in and out of it at any time. The biggest advantage is that we can use the mirror world to meet at any time. Of course, we can also use the mirror world as an escape route." Lei Xingyao reacted at this time. She said happily, "Brother, does that mean I can come back at any time?" Lei Xingfeng laughed. "That's right. That means our whole family can meet at any time. Hee. The most important thing is that this is the best place to hide. I'll give you the right to enter at any time." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.